Chapter 206, Gifting Tea Leaves. Only after hearing those words did everyone remember that the conclusion of the test between him and Lu Sun wasn't out yet. All eyes immediately shot to Elder Qian. You win. Elder Qian sighed bitterly. An appraisal competition against the creator of the painting? What a joke. It would be ridiculous to say that Zhang Xian had lost. More importantly, just by granting the painting a name, the painting was raised by nearly an entire level. Zhang Laoshe, here is your spirit-calming tea. Since Zhang Xian had achieved victory, Tian Gang handed the teacup to him. The steam from the tea still lingered above it and the fragrance tickled Zhang Xian's nose. Even before drinking it, Zhang Xian felt refreshed and energized just by the aroma itself. After taking the teacup, just when everyone thought that the young man would drink it and indulge himself in its fragrance, he simply tilted the cup and poured it onto the floor. Walala! The fragrance of the tea immediately diffused all around the room. Zhang Laoshe, upon seeing such a valuable cup of tea being wasted, Lu Ling, Huang Yu, and the others were astonished. Disbelief shone in their eyes. This was spirit-calming tea, a tea which countless cultivators dream of, only to remain out of their grasp. Even Huang Yu, an assistant master teacher, wasn't qualified to drink it. To pour it away like that. What a waste of precious resources. Everyone looked regretful. Zhang Xian, my grandfather offered you such valuable tea out of goodwill, yet you poured it away like that. What do you mean by that? Tian Long abruptly stood up. His grandfather had his butler present Zhang Xian with the tea, but the other party poured it away in front of him. This was blatant disrespect for Elder Tian. Besides, even Tian Long wasn't qualified to drink the tea. Yet this fellow simply wasted it like that. He found it unforgivable. Infuriated, regardless of whether the other party was a grandmaster painter or not, he immediately rebuked him. Unfortunate. Ignoring the other party's howl, Zhang Xian placed his hands behind his back and looked outside the hall. It seemed as though his attention was somewhere far away. He sighed. Stop putting up a front here. You are the one who poured away the tea, yet you're saying it's unfortunate now. Do you really take the Tian clan as people you can step on like that? Tian Long lashed out. He was the one who poured the tea out, yet he was saying that it was unfortunate now. What the hell are you trying to do? Are you doing it on purpose? Everyone else were perplexed as well. They had no idea what Zhang Laoshe was up to. Lu Ling, Zhuang Xian, and the others stared at each other confused. As master teachers, they possessed incredible discerning capabilities, allowing them to see through many matters. Yet they realized that their discerning abilities were useless before him. They couldn't see through the other party's cultivation, his thoughts, or his intentions. He was a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Especially now. Despite the risk of offending Elder Tian, he spilt the tea on the floor. What was he up to? If things went on like this, there'd be no backing down anymore. They were considering whether they should step forward to mediate the situation. Just when everyone was feeling apprehensive of the fight that was about to occur, Zhang Xian turned around to look at Elder Tian. The tea leaves of spirit-calming tea grow at the peak of the ice mountain, granting it its calming and revitalizing properties. It is harvested right after the blooming of its flowers. Usually, when brewed, it should allow one to maintain heart of tranquil water for 100 breaths. Yet this cup could only allow one to maintain the state for 12 breaths. For the effects of such fine tea leaves to be reduced to this state, if this isn't unfortunate, what else can it be? You. How did you know that this cup of tea could only maintain heart of tranquil water for 12 breaths? Elder Tian was initially infuriated by Zhang Xian's actions as well, but upon hearing his words, he was stunned. The effects of spirit-calming tea were clearly stated in the books to last for 100 breaths. However, no matter how Elder Tian brewed the tea, he was only able to maintain its effects for 12 breaths or so. Initially, he thought that it was due to the inaccuracies of the book, but hearing the matter from Zhang Laoshe's mouth at this moment, he was astonished. I thought you didn't drink the tea. If you didn't drink it, how could you have known the effects of my tea? The tea set, teacups, and teapot are the emerald radiance set personally created by Master Potter Wu Qingzi. As for the water, it came from the deep well in Three Gardens platform, and it was exposed to the sun for 2 days straight before boiling it for an hour. And for the brewing technique, you used 7 hearts coiling hands to make the tea. In order to brew this tea, you have cleansed yourself, eaten a vegetarian diet for 7 days straight, and adjusted your state of mind to heart of tranquil water. You went for perfection on every single aspect, fearful that a mistake would occur in the midst of anything. However, it is unfortunate. The effects of the spirit-calming tea you brewed still weren't maximized. Even more so, it could be said to be a failed product. Zhang Qian gestured casually. You. Elder Qian was flabbergasted. He didn't even notice the teacup in his hands falling onto the table. The words of the other party were completely correct. The water used for steeping the tea leaves was indeed from the deep well in Three Gardens platform. The brewing technique he used was 7 hearts coiling hands, and the tea set used was the emerald radiance set. Before brewing the tea, he did cleanse himself and abstain from meat for a week. He had kept all of these a secret, such that even Tian Long didn't know of it. Yet, how did Zhang Laoshe find out? More importantly, to know of all of them in detail. It was said that a grandmaster tea brewer could see through the flaws and problems within a tea just by looking, smelling, and tasting it. From there, they could offer the other party instruction, allowing the person to refine their skills. Could it be that Zhang Laoshe wasn't just a grandmaster painter, but a grandmaster tea brewer as well? If that were the case, if Zhang Laoshe offered him some advice, could it be possible for him to break through his bottleneck and reach an even higher level? Elder Tian trembled, agitated. Just when he was about to consult the other party on this matter, he heard Tian Long angrily howling, "To dare say that the tea which grandfather brewed is a failed product, who do you think you are? Do you think I won't teach you a lesson right now?" Upon hearing these words, Elder Tian's eyebrows twitched and he nearly passed out. In the way of tea, he had reached a bottleneck, and for many years, he had been stuck trying to surpass his limits. Right now, given how the other party was able to see through the mistakes in his spirit-calming tea, if you were to offer him some advice, he might be able to achieve a breakthrough. Yet, his hopes were shattered with the words of this brat. Moreover, you wish to teach a person on the level of a grandmaster in the way of tea a lesson? You unfilial brute. If not for your prejudice of this Zhang Laoshe, I wouldn't have been so biased against him. If I hadn't been so rude to him, the other party wouldn't have been so displeased. Damn it. The more he thought, the angrier he became. Shut up. Ah. Grandfather. Tian Long didn't expect his grandfather to bellow at him like that. Dumbfounded, he stood blankly on the spot. Go away, don't get in the way of us here. Waving him away, Elder Tian hurriedly stood up and walked over to Zhang Qian. Clasping his hands, he bowed earnestly, like a student meeting a teacher. With a respectful tone, he said, "Zhang Laoshe is right, the tea I've brewed is indeed a failed product. It doesn't have the effects that a true spirit-calming tea should possess." He had no choice but to admit it. Given how the other party's words were all true, he had likely seen some problem. If he were to reject his opinion vehemently at this moment, he would simply incur the ire of the other party. If so, he would pass by this opportunity to reach greater heights. This spirit-calming tea can allow one to remain in the state of heart of tranquil water for 100 breaths. Hearing Elder Tian admit to it, a commotion broke out among the crowd. Everyone stared at the young man as though he were a monster. Especially so for Huang Yu and Bai Sun, they pulled their hair frenziedly. Wasn't Zhang Laoshe completely ignorant of the way of tea when he came? Why could he see through so much now, even making Elder Tian lower his position and admit defeat? Off to the side, Lu Sun and Wang Chao were even more so on the verge of insanity. Isn't this fellow garbage? To be a grandmaster capable of producing a painting of the 5th level at one moment, to able to impress Elder Qian in the field of Way of Tea in the other. Where can one find such incredible garbage? Zhang Laoshi, I hope that you can point out my mistakes so that I can correct them and not waste such precious tea leaves. After admitting that he was unable to fully unleash the properties of spirit calming tea, Elder Qian looked at Zhang Xian respectfully. I have come to your Qian residence with the invitation of the 3 master teachers as a guest, yet all I've been welcomed with was contempt ever since my arrival, even to the point of being tested of my capabilities. At this, Zhang Xian shook his head as he glanced at the elder before him. Do you think this is the appropriate way to treat a grandmaster painter? Embarrassment flushed on Elder Qian's face. If the other party were just an ordinary noble, this matter would have no great import. But Zhang Xian was a grandmaster painter, and it was very likely that he was a grandmaster in the Way of Tea as well. It was one thing to not show a person of such identity the respect befitting of him, but to test him. This was clear contempt for him. The reputation of a master teacher mustn't be sullied, and the same could be said about grandmasters as well. Regardless of which occupation it was, reaching such a level meant that one had surpassed countless others and achieved an incredible level of mastery in the field. Even in conferred kingdoms, they were respected existences. Yet, in a moment of folly, Frankly, I don't want to say much. However, on account on your sincerity, I can offer you some advice. Zhang Xian glanced at him thinly. Red wine has to be enjoyed in a wine glass. Even wine has its own silverware, needless to say, tea. Spirit calming tea has a calming property, but even though the emerald radiance set is a treasure left behind by an esteemed potter, it is hot in nature. Since heat breeds irritation, how can one remain calm? This is my first piece of advice. The Way of Tea is an art of tranquility. Your actions of cleansing yourself and abstaining from meat is a form of respect for the art. However, since it should be an art of tranquility, should there be a banquet for it? Given the commotion, your heart is already disturbed, so how can you brew the most perfect spirit-calming tea? This is my second piece of advice. You should keep these 2 points in mind. Perhaps this might be beneficial to your progress in the Way of Tea. I still have things to attend to, so I will be leaving now. Farewell. Zhang Xian waved and headed outside. Zhang Laoshi, please wait. Before Zhang Xian could step out of the hall, Elder Qian hurried forward. Zhang Laoshi, your advice has enlightened me. This is a token of my appreciation. I hope you can accept it. After which, he beckoned and a servant brought a box to him. Opening it gently, the deep fragrance of tea leaves gushed into the air. The tea leaves of spirit calming tea. Given the quantity, 2 taels. Even considering the entirety of Tianxian Kingdom, only 3 taels are produced every year. But you want to gift 2 taels at once? Upon catching scent of the fragrance, the eyebrows of everyone here shot upward. They were all shocked by Elder Qian's gesture. This was definitely a huge gift. Importantly, even Emperor Shinzhui didn't have much of a chance to drink it. Through this, it was clear to see how valuable the tea leaves were. Yet Elder Qian gifted 2 taels of tea leaves at once, an amount sufficient for one to brew more than a dozen pots. Wasn't this gesture of goodwill too generous? Looks like, even though Zhang Laoshi's advice sounded ordinary, it has enlightened Tian Laoshi. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to offer such a generous gift to him. While they were shocked by his gesture, they also understood that a gift didn't come freely. Elder Tian's action of giving so many tea leaves to the other party meant that, the other party had pointed out the fundamental errors behind the tea he had brewed, and Elder Tian had benefited greatly from his words. Without even drinking the tea, with just a single look, he was able to point out the problems, resulting in Elder Tian gifting his tea leaves to the other party willingly. How many surprises did this Zhang Laoshi hold within him? Was there still more to him that they didn't know of? Chapter 207, Returning to the Academy. After accepting the tea leaves, Zhang Xian went away without a peep. In the very first place, he didn't intend to attend this birthday banquet at all. If not for Huang Yu and Bai Sun's request, as well as for an opportunity to meet the three masters to ask them about the poison aura, he wouldn't have cared about Elder Qian one bit. Even if it was a funeral, he would have never came to such an event. Even though he didn't get an opportunity to ask the three master teachers of the matter, based on their attitude, they would likely come looking for him soon. It wouldn't be too late to ask them about it then. Since that was the case, there was no longer any purpose for Zhang Xian to remain there. As for why Zhang Xian was able to see the flaws in the tea Elder Qian brewed, the reason was simple. The moment Zhang Xian stepped into the hall, the other party was in the midst of brewing tea. As such, the library automatically compiled a book on it, and just by flipping through it, Zhang Xian would know everything about him. If not for that fellow intentionally trying to pit him against Lu Sun and siding with the latter, he wouldn't have been bothered about it and embarrassed the other party in public. You wish to make use of Lu Sun to humiliate me? What a joke. Those who try to slap my face will be sent flying with a slap of mine. It doesn't matter to me whether you are Elder Qian or whoever. There are no exceptions. Elder Qian, Your Majesty, Lu Shi, Zhuang Shi, Zheng Shi, will be taking our leave as well. Upon seeing Zhang Xian leave, Huang Yu and Bai Sun quickly followed behind him as well. They were the ones who brought Zhang Laoshi here and they didn't think it appropriate for them to remain here given the situation. The moment they left, the room immediately fell silent. Grandfather, that's spirit calming tea. Why did you suddenly gift so much of it? Tian Long felt indignant. Even if the advice had helped his grandfather, there shouldn't be a need for him to shower the other party with such a generous gift. They had paid a huge price to get someone to pick and process the 2 taels of tea leaves for them. It wasn't something that one could just buy with money. Even his grandfather couldn't bear to drink it on casual occasions, yet to gift it someone else like that. Just thinking of it, Tian Long felt his heart ache. Much? It isn't much at all. Glancing at his grandson, Elder Tian shook his head. Even though his grandson seemed intelligent, and he had entrusted his expectations onto him, at this moment, it seemed that his character and magnanimity were severely lacking. Elder Tian is right. 2 taels of spirit calming tea isn't much at all. Putting aside the fact that he had offered valuable advice to Tian Laoshi, just the 2 words Zhang Laoshi wrote on the painting are valuable, Emperor Shinjue said. The 2 simple words, wild deer, were truly a priceless treasure. It had raised the already valuable painting of the 5th level by nearly another entire level. Even if they gifted him all of the tea leaves in the Tian residence, they would have still made a profit. Not just that, by this kind gesture, they could reduce the hostility a grandmaster painter felt for them, perhaps befriending him even. I have benefited greatly from Zhang Laoshi's advice. Tian Long, Tian Gang, I'll leave the birthday banquet to you too. I would like some time for myself to digest what I've learnt. Perhaps his words may allow my mastery in tea brewing to reach new heights. Elder Tian nodded his head before falling silent. Then we won't be imposing on Tian Laoshi any longer. Lu Ling knew that the other party was inviting them to leave, so he left the hall along with Emperor Shinjue and the others. Your Majesty, we still have things to attend to, so we won't be returning with you to the royal palace. Upon leaving the Tian residence, the trio bade Emperor Shinjue farewell before leaving hurriedly. Needless to say, they were going to look for Zhang Laoshi. He is truly a god among men. Seeing how even the 3 master teachers were impressed by Zhang Laoshi, Emperor Shinjue commented in awe. After which, he turned to a eunuch and said, make preparations. I want to watch the teacher evaluation tomorrow as well. Yes, Your Majesty, the eunuch replied. A while after the 3 master teachers and Emperor Shinjue left the Tian residence, Lu Sun and Wang Chao walked out of the mansion. The moment they left the perimeter of the residence, resentment and indignance immediately burned in their eyes. He is just a low-level teacher, why? Why? Damn it! Damn it! Lu Sun howled loudly. The hatred in his eyes was so deep it could dye a river black. He thought that the banquet for Elder Qian would be an impetus for a breakthrough, and he would successfully become Lu Shi's apprentice. Never in his dreams did he expect such a conclusion. The fellow he had been looking down on had trampled over his pride numerous times, riling him up so much that he was about to spurt blood. The strong sense of humiliation he felt made him want to go on a rampage. He, Lu Xun, as the son of the emperor's tutor, had lived a smooth-sailing life since childhood. All along, he had been the one who humiliated others. When had he ever suffered a setback of this sort? That fellow must have spent all of his effort and time studying painting and the way of tea, so his ability to impart knowledge must be bad. As long as you triumph over him in the teacher evaluation tomorrow, you should be able to return the shame to him, Wang Chao said. Even though Zhang Xian was talented, it was impossible for him to be talented in all aspects. Even if he were truly talented in all aspects, given the limited time and energy a human possessed, he would have to spend a bulk of his time researching painting and the way of tea, thus neglecting his education abilities. The duo were still rather confident in their abilities as teachers, so they didn't believe that they would still lose to Zhang Xian here. I must win the teacher evaluation tomorrow. Hearing his words, Lu Xun nodded his head. He had been humiliated enough today. He couldn't afford to lose to the other party anymore. Wang Chao, don't you know that apothecary? I would like to buy a few pills to give it a try. Clenching his fists tightly, Lu Xun turned to look at his friend. Buy a few pills? You mean you want to? Upon recall, Wang Chao was horrified. He quickly shook his head. You can't do it. Even though that can raise your cultivation within a short period of time, it will damage the students' foundations, making it hard for them to improve in the future. I can't care about it anymore. I must win tomorrow. There's no retreat for me now. As long as I win and become Lu Shi's apprentice, I will be able to become a master teacher within 10 years. By then, I can easily repair the trauma they will suffer. In fact, by then, granting them a life of luxury wouldn't mean anything to me. Gritting his teeth, Lu Xun's eyes contained a frenzied gleam. This. Wang Chao hesitated. Wang Chao knew about his friend's talents. He was just a step away from becoming an official painter, and the moment he broke through this bottleneck, he would be eligible to take the master teacher examination. Given the experience he had accumulated as a teacher in the past few years, as well as his study on master teachers, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a master teacher within 10 years. Once he became a master teacher, it wouldn't be a difficult task to make up for these students' losses. He could easily provide them with a life of luxury then, and repairing their trauma wouldn't be impossible whatsoever. Alright, we've no time to waste. It's fortunate we haven't returned the 3 million which we borrowed from Emperor Shinjue. That should be sufficient for us to buy 5 pills. Let's go and buy them now. I'm going to make them raise a storm tomorrow. Not only will I triumph over Zhang Xian, I will make everyone know that in the Qian Academy, I, Lu Xun, am invincible. Flinging his sleeves, Lu Xun roared. Okay, I'll go take a look now. Knowing that Lu Xun's mind was made up and that it was impossible for him to convince him otherwise, Wang Chao nodded his head. What Lu Xun said made sense, there was no retreat at this point. They had offended Yang Shi in the royal palace, making it nigh impossible for them to become his apprentice. The 3 master teachers had set their sights on Zhang Xian. If the 2 of them were to lose, there wouldn't be any chance for them anymore. Their only hope was the teacher evaluation tomorrow. They had to make everyone know that Lu Xun was the true star teacher in Qian Academy, the #1 teacher of the entire Tianxian kingdom. And that Zhang Xian was nothing at all. He wasn't even qualified to vie with them. Weren't you going to give this painting to Elder Qian? Why did it become Lu Shi's present instead? Before Zhang Xian could get too far, Huang Yu and Bai Sun caught up with him. Seated in the carriage, Zhang Xian suddenly recalled the matter and asked. Back then, while Huang Yu and Bai Sun were competing over the ink daylily canvas, Zhang Xian suddenly produced paintings of the 5th level, and the pair immediately bought Zhang Xian's works instead. Back then, it seemed that they had intended to buy his painting to present it to another as a gift, so he was curious why it became a gift from Lu Shi instead. Also, where was the painting Bai Sun had bought? Actually, the reason why I asked for the ink daylily canvas was to help Lu Shi prepare a present for his teacher. Thus, it is natural that he was the one who presented it to him, Huang Yu said. As a junior, there's no need for me to present such a valuable present to Elder Qian even if I attended his birthday banquet. Ah. Hearing Huang Yu's words, Zhang Xian immediately understood what was going on. Indeed. As a junior, even if she visited Elder Qian, she only had to prepare a novelty of some sort. There was no need for her to present a treasure like the ink daylily canvas. Naturally, she had done it in Lu Shi's stead. As such, it was natural for the gift to be given to Elder Qian through Lu Shi's hands. What about you? As Zhuang Shi's student, there should be no need for you to prepare a gift in his stead, right? Bai Sun's relationship with Zhuang Shi was different from the relationship Huang Yu had with Lu Shi. The latter was in an apprenticeship whereas the former was just a student. Even though the two of them sounded alike, the standing and identity of the two were on two different levels. Huang Yu might have to look for a birthday present in Lu Shi's stead, but as a student, there shouldn't be any need for Bai Sun to do the same. Actually, Bai Sun scratched his head in embarrassment. It is because Xiao Yu wanted the ink daylily canvas that I asked for it as well. This way, I would have a reason to be with her. As for why I bought the painting from Master Zhang, it is for my father. He likes painting a lot as well. Zhang Xian was speechless. It turned out that this fellow only wanted the ink daylily canvas to flirt with Huang Yu. Just the thought of it was ridiculous. However, his choice wasn't wrong. Only by competing with Huang Yu could he meet her every day. This way, it would make it easier for him to court her as well. Just that, even though Bai Sun was interested in Huang Yu, the same could not be said about the latter. Most likely, the fellow was destined for heartbreak. Bai Sun was just a student of Zhuang Shi. There was no need for him to present a painting of the 5th level to Elder Qian. As an esteemed noble of the country, it wasn't difficult for him to find another suitable gift. As a result, Elder Qian only had the painting of the wild deer, and the other one was still in Bai Sun's possession. Master Zhang, I thought you didn't know anything about the way of tea. Then how did you? After a while, when Hongtian Academy was already in sight, Huang Yu couldn't help but ask. That fellow had clearly shown his ignorance in the subject earlier, and it didn't seem like he was faking it. Yet how did he manage to point out the mistakes in Tian Long's and Elder Tian's ways of tea, even completely impressing Elder Tian? It's true that I didn't know anything about it. Zhang Xian nodded his head. Even though there were many books regarding the way of tea in his head, he hadn't had the chance to browse through them yet. As a result, it wasn't a lie to say that he didn't know anything about the topic. Then, Huang Yu and Bai Sun were confused. If you don't know anything about the subject, how could you speak so confidently and stump them with your words? Shouldn't you come up with a better lie than that? I just happened to flip through a few books on the way of tea in the past and freely spoke of them. It was a coincidence that I managed to guess them correctly. Zhang Xian replied casually. Freely spoke of them. Bai Sun and Huang Yu stared at each other speechless. Brother, if you don't want to tell us the truth, just say so. You won't fool anyone with that ridiculous excuse of yours. Do the two of us look like fools to you? Since we've arrived at the academy, I'll be bidding you two farewell. Even though the duo clearly didn't believe his words, Zhang Xian couldn't be bothered to explain to them. With a smile, Zhang Xian hopped off the carriage. He had finally arrived at Hongtian Academy. After a few days of absence, he was curious to see how far Zhao Ye and the others had progressed. Chapter 208, Inc. The Hongtian Academy was bustling with people. The freshman tournament was about to begin. 10,000 students had been enrolled in the academy, and after half a month of study, it was time to check on the results of their training. Who do you think will be first place in the tournament this time? I still think it's the person who got number 1 during the entrance examinations. Right after enrollment, his cultivation reached Fighter 2 Dan. A month has passed since then, so he should be much stronger by now. The freshman tournament isn't just reliant on strength. Besides, even if he was strong before his enrollment, it doesn't mean that he will still be strong now. I've heard that the few new students under Lu Laoshi who were going to participate in the teacher evaluation have all reached Fighter 2 Dan. Furthermore, they weren't his direct disciples. It will be hard to tell whether he can beat them. But that guy is a student of Lu Laoshi too, right? Seems like even if first place isn't that guy, it should be someone under Lu Laoshi's tutelage. Of course. Of the top 500 in the entrance examination, at least 300 of them have come under Lu Laoshi's tutelage. Even if they don't want to get first place, there must be someone that can match up to them first. By the way, who do you think will win in the teacher evaluation? Zhang Qian Laoshi or Lu Laoshi? Win? Are you stupid? Does that question even need to be asked? In what way is Zhang Qian Laoshi qualified to compete against Lu Laoshi? Even if the Education Bureau had intentionally suppressed him, causing his teacher qualification examination results to be reflected wrong, his result in the past year wasn't terrific either. That's true. See. To tell you the truth, I heard that the fellow intentionally provoked Lu Laoshi to make fame for himself. After causing his students' cultivation to go berserk, he still dares to challenge Lu Laoshi to a teacher evaluation. I really don't know how a person's skin can be so thick. The news that I've heard is completely different from yours. I heard that Zhang Qian Laoshi is a noble person, and has already reached Pixue realm. In order to uphold the academy's prestige, he had been keeping mum about the matter, tolerating all of the insults by himself. I've also heard that. Rumors have it that his student was afflicted with innate sealed meridians, and he intentionally caused his student's cultivation to go berserk so that he could surpass his limits. That person is Zhao Yanfeng. I've met him a few times. Not only did Zhang Laoshi help resolve his problem, he even helped him break through his cultivation. Right now, he's already a Fighter 2 Dan expert. Grateful to Zhang Laoshi, he wanted to go under his tutelage once more. This event incurred Lu Laoshi wrath, resulting in Lu Laoshi challenging Zhang Laoshi to the teacher evaluation. Are you serious? Is that true? It's definitely true. I heard this info from a friend I'm familiar with. All kinds of discussions and theories floated around the place. Some said that Zhang Qian overestimated himself, while others said that he was forced to accept the challenge. At this point, it was hard to tell what the truth was anymore. Due to Yao Han's intentional spreading of the news of the Education Bureau, nearly everyone in the academy was aware of it now. However, most of the students were still hesitant to believe it. After all, Lu Sun's reputation in the academy was simply too great. Even though Zhang Qian had cleansed himself of the grief from scoring a 0 in the teacher qualification examination, it was hard for him to establish a towering image in the hearts of the students within such a short period of time. However, Zhang Qian wasn't bothered by this matter at all. In any case, tomorrow's teacher evaluation would determine everything. Rather than wasting his time on this matter, he might as well focus on raising the strength of those students of his. Soon he arrived at his classroom. Zhang Laoshi, Zhao Ye and the others were all present. Each of them were spirited and emitted a powerful aura. Not bad. Seeing the status of his students, Zhang Qian nodded his head in satisfaction. He was glad that he didn't waste his efforts. Regardless of whether it was Zhao Ye, Zhen Yang, Wang Ying, Lu Yang, or Yuan Tao, each of them had improved significantly. They were completely different from how they were half a month ago. Not only this, even the students who had just listened in on the lessons, Wang Tao, Wang Yan, and Zhao Yanfeng, had also improved significantly. Even though Zhang Qian didn't conduct many lessons, every word in his lecture pointed straight toward the essence of cultivation. Learning under him helped them further comprehend cultivation as a topic, and naturally, this helped them raise their cultivation faster. What is that? After praising them, just when Zhang Qian was about to start meeting them one by one, Zhang Qian suddenly caught sight of something in the corner of the room. There were a few pots placed by the side and the contents inside them were all pitch black. Perplexed, Zhang Qian asked them. He clearly remembered not seeing such an object in the classroom before. Zhang Laoshe, it is ink, Wang Ying's face flushed as she said softly. Ink? Zhang Qian was confused. Why would there be a pot of ink in the classroom? What he taught was cultivation, not culture. There was no need for him or the students to paint beautiful ink paintings or write elegant calligraphy, so there was no reason for these objects to be in the classroom. Upon hearing his question, the several students fell into a silence of awkwardness. What's wrong? Could there be a reason behind this? Yuan Tao, speak. Seeing the bizarre expressions on everyone's faces, Zhang Qian's eyebrows shot up. Yuan Tao didn't expect Zhang Laoshe to single him out and his face immediately scrunched up as though he had eaten a bitter gourd. After a moment of hesitation, he said, it's like that. Due to the awakening of Xiaoye Xiaojia's purine body, she has become even more beautiful. As such, many students wish to court her. Court? Only then did Zhang Qian realize the change in Xiaoye's appearance from the awakening of the purine body. Regardless of whether it was her looks or her nature, she seemed completely different from before. Compared to the domineering young mistress in the past, she was now an elegant young lady. In terms of appearance, she was superior even to Shin Bairu. It was no wonder that other students started to admire and approach her. So if someone comes to find her, what is the purpose of the ink? Zhang Qian was even more perplexed. Even if Xiaoye became prettier and other men came to pester her, it would suffice to chase them away. In the academy, it was unlikely for them to go too far. Besides, the strength of his students had risen greatly. If someone tried to harass Xiaoye, they would likely leave with a swollen face. By no means were Zheng Yang, Lu Yang, and Yuan Tao people who would allow others to climb over their head. It was impossible for them to watch obediently as others tried to poach Xiaoye over to their sides. We have chased away all of the students, but... Yuan Tao scratched his head as he laughed awkwardly. But recently, 3 perverted old men had been loitering around the classroom. Based on their movements, we wouldn't be able to defeat them. So we prepared some ink to pour on them. It's rumored that ink can vanquish lust, and after they had been splashed by this ink, those 3 perverted old men should feel embarrassed to continue loitering here. Perverted old men? Zhang Qian was perplexed. Are you sure that they aren't teachers of the academy? I'm sure that they aren't. I know all of the teachers in the school, but there aren't any teachers with appearances like theirs. Just by looking at their leering faces, I'm sure that they are up to no good. The one who spoke this time was Zheng Yang. I kept seeing them hiding in the corner in the past few days, pointing to Xiaoye and Wang Ying, discussing them. Sometimes, they even nodded their heads while smiling. I am sure that they are up to no good. Pointing to Xiaoye and Wang Ying and discussing them. When did such shameless fellows appear in the academy? From the confidence in his student's tone, Zhang Qian didn't think that he was lying. His forehead wrinkled. For old men to be peeping on and discussing 16, 17-year-old girls. They were indeed lecherous. All right. Zhang Qian also agreed with their opinions that the old men were up to no good and nodded his head. You all should be on guard. Xiaoye and Wang Ying, don't go out by yourselves for the next few days. If you meet those 3 old men again, feel free to use the ink to splash them. Since they were able to get into the academy, they probably had esteemed identities. It was already embarrassing for them to be stalking young girls in public, and if they were to be splashed with ink, they should probably understand how shameful their actions were and leave of their own accord. Of course, he would try to remain in the academy for the next 2 days. If the old men were to strike once more, he didn't mind teaching them a lesson personally. Hooray for Zhang Laoshe. I've already said that Zhang Laoshe is an understanding person and he wouldn't blame us for that. Upon hearing Zhang Qian approving their actions, the students cheered happily. Alright, let's get down to business. Yuan Tao, follow me in first. I'll take a look at how your cultivation is going. The teacher evaluation was tomorrow. So Zhang Qian needed a clear idea of the current strength of his students by today. At the same time, he could offer them some instruction. Perhaps, through this, they would improve a bit more before the duel with Lu Sun's students. Even if it was just a mild improvement, it might just be the determining factor in the battle. The duo walked into the partitioned room and Yuan Tao closed the door behind him. After which, Zhang Qian gestured. Show me your battle technique. Yes. Yuan Tao nodded his head. His fist shot out, making the wind howl. The might behind his fist was astonishing. Even though his cultivation didn't improve greatly, still in Fighter 1 Dan Jushi Realm Intermediate Stage, his strength was astounding. That punch of his had caused a sonic boom. This strength. Zhang Qian was surprised. His ability to produce a sonic boom with his fists meant that his strength and defensive ability had reached astonishing levels. Even Fighter 3 Dan Jinchi Realm cultivators might find it difficult to endure a punch with that power. As expected of the Emperor's bloodline. Even though only 10% of it has been awakened, it is still able to induce such an incredible growth in strength and defense. The unique constitutions were indeed extraordinary, befitting of their enormous reputations. Even though Yuan Tao's cultivation was still the lowest among his 5 students, his offensive and defensive abilities were extremely fearsome. Your cultivation still isn't good enough. Whenever you cultivate and gather spiritual energy, you are too focused on the absorption of spiritual energy, thus failing to align your physical condition along with it. I will impart you with a cultivation method now. As long as you cultivate with it, it shouldn't be difficult for you to reach Jushi Realm Advanced Stage today, said Zhang Qian, after taking a single look. After the other party had executed his punching routine, a new book on Yuan Tao formed in his head. After reading through the contents within, Zhang Qian gained a clear idea of the problems and flaws in Yuan Tao's cultivation. Yes. Yuan Tao hurriedly nodded his head and turned his attention to memorizing the cultivation method. It didn't take him long before he remembered the entire formula. Okay, call Zhaoye in. After instructing Yuan Tao on what he should do, Zhang Qian waved him out. Soon, Zhaoye walked in. The purine body was indeed incredible. Upon its awakening, Zhaoye exuded the disposition of a fairy from the upper realms who had descended onto the mortal world. Not to mention, Zhaoye was originally a beautiful maiden. With the augmentation from her constitution, every single movement of hers exuded indescribable grace. Given her looks and nature, any male students matched against her will immediately admit his defeat upon seeing her smile. The heavens were indeed unfair. Given Zhaoye's outer appearance, if her opponent was a male, he might not even try to lay his hands on her. Show me your battle technique. Yes. Zhaoye nodded her head, clenched her fist, and punched out. Hu hu hu. The sound of wind filled the entire room. Your strength. After a book was formed in the library, Zhang Qian flipped it open and took a look. The next instant, his eyes widened in disbelief. How could this be possible? Voila! Boom! What are you all doing? The nerve! Just as Zhang Qian was about to speak, he heard the sound of a pot shattering. After which, furious roars resounded. What's going on? Frowning, Zhang Qian immediately walked out of the room. Chapter 209, Poison Hall. It was already chaotic outside. Zheng Yang was wielding a spear whereas Wang Ying was in a battle stance. Meanwhile Yuan Tao was carrying the tables and chairs in the classroom, glaring fiercely at the intruders. At the entrance of the classroom, ink was splattered all over the floor. There were 3 fellows who were drenched black standing at the entrance, fuming. Clearly, just when they were about to enter, Zhang Xian's students immediately threw ink at them. Zhang Laoshi, these are the 3 shameless men who had been peeping on us every day. To still be peeping on girls at your age, don't you feel embarrassed? Upon seeing Zhang Xian walk out, Yuan Tao and Lu Yang hurriedly shouted at the trio. However, before they could finish speaking, they saw the mouth of the usually calm Zhang Laoshi twitch, then his entire body staggered, and it seemed as though he was about to fall to the ground. Lu Shi, Zhuang Shi, Zheng Shi. Why are you all here? Zhang Xian was on the verge of tears. Back then, when he heard his students say that there were 3 lecherous old men hiding by the corner peeping on them, Zhang Xian took their words as truth. Never in his wildest dreams could he have expected that it would be the 3 master teachers. As master teachers, they could just walk in through the front door to look for me. Disguising themselves and hiding in the corner, what were they up to? Due to that, a misunderstanding arose and they were splattered with ink, causing this awkward situation. Not just that, they were even criticized as shameless and lecherous. Lu Shi, Zhuang Shi, Zheng Shi. Hearing the words that Zhang Laoshi uttered, Zheng Yang, Zhao Ye, and the others staggered. The 3 master teachers arriving at the capital was a huge affair, and the students in Hengtian Academy had already long since heard of the event. Naturally, they also knew of their names as well. Initially, they thought that the few old men who had come to peep on them were just lewd perverts who were lusting over Zhao Ye's beauty. To think that it would actually be the famous 3 master teachers in the capital. Weren't master teachers supposed to be prestigious figures who were difficult to even catch a glimpse of? Why did they suddenly appear here and stalk them? Zhang Laoshi, are you mistaken? Where can one find master teachers who act so pervertedly, wearing these kinds of clothes and hiding in the corner, afraid of us noticing them? Zheng Yang couldn't help from saying. Mistaken? Zhang Xian nearly choked on his spit. The hell, what was with the students he was teaching? Other people usually brought trouble to their father and their grandfather. Yet his students were clearly intent on preparing his grave for him. The other party were all master teachers. With a single stomp of their legs, even Emperor Shinzhui would cower in fear. Yet, not only did you all not apologize after splattering ink on them, you even said that they were perverted. Perverted your head. Frankly, I really want you all to admit that it was your fault. This way, the problem can be settled easily. How do you expect me to deal with such a situation? Zhang Xian felt so depressed that he could cry. On the other hand, the 3 master teachers felt so infuriated that their lips were twitching non-stop. They felt so humiliated by this affair that the thought of suicide passed through their minds. Right after leaving Elder Tian's residence, they immediately rushed to the academy and headed to Zhang Xian's classroom. Yet the moment they walked in, they saw pitch-black ink flying right at them. Stunned by the sight before them, they didn't even have the time to react. The hell is going on? We are master teachers. Regardless of where we go, we are influential figures who are held in high regard. Yet why were we splashed with ink here? Why are we treated as perverts here? If word spreads, how can we face others? Zhang Laoshi, I am certain that it is the 3 of them. In the past 2 days, they have been loitering around the classroom, peeping on us. I find it hard to believe that they don't have any bad intentions in mind. Afraid that Zhang Laoshi might not believe Zheng Yang's words, Wang Ying added on. I can also vouch for it. Even if they were reduced to ashes, I would recognize them. Lu Yang said decisively. Shut your traps. Seeing how these students were so unreliable and getting worse with their words, Zhang Xian couldn't stand it any longer. After bellowing at his students, he mustered his courage and walked up. Master teachers, I apologize for bringing you all trouble. I will teach them a lesson later. There's no need to worry about it. The ignorant aren't guilty. Forget it, it's our mistake as well. Lu Ling, Zhuang Xian, and Zheng Fei squeezed out smiles on their crying faces. Yuan Tao, Zheng Yang, hurry up and buy some clothes for the 3 master teachers. Seeing that the trio didn't intend to pursue this matter, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Kicking Yuan Tao and Zheng Yang's rears, he roared. Yes, yes. At this moment, everyone finally understood that these 3 lecherous old men were true master teachers. Their faces immediately turned green with fear. There wasn't anyone in this world who didn't know how fearsome a master teacher was. Yet they threw ink in the faces of 3 master teachers instantly, reducing them to such states. They truly felt like crying now. But it really wasn't intentional. Who could have thought that noble master teachers would disguise themselves and loiter around their classroom to peep at them, even talking about them? This. Master teachers, have you been hanging around here for the past few days? Asked Zhang Xian after getting a towel for the trio to wipe away the ink from their faces. As master teachers, instead of indulging yourselves in the luxuries in the royal palace, why would you all come here? Even if you want to take me as your apprentice, upon knowing that I'm not here, there shouldn't be any reason for you all to be hanging around my students, talking about them. We. Hearing Zhang Xian's straightforward words, the 3 master teachers' mouths opened, but they couldn't say a single word due to awkwardness. What could they say? That they'd heard of his deeds, and that they wanted to see it for themselves. Peeping on his students to gather information on him. They would have to abandon their prestige as master teachers to say such words. I have an old friend in Qian Academy and he happened to be free the past few days. So we've been coming around to see him. Also, the atmosphere is not bad, so we thought that it would be good to spend our time here, the quick-witted Zheng Fei said with a smile. Atmosphere is not bad? Zhang Xian looked at them with strangely. He had seen people who could speak lies with a straight face, but he had never seen someone who could spout such an obvious lie so brazenly. My classroom is at the very corner of the academy, the worst location in the compound. How inexperienced of the world must you be to think that the atmosphere is not bad? Besides, do you have friends in Qian Academy? Why haven't I heard of it? If you really have friends here, you would have come much earlier than this. Oh, is that the case? My students are still inexperienced, that's why they thought that you were up to no good. Please pay them no heed. In order to prevent the atmosphere from turning awkward, Zhang Xian didn't expose the blatant lie. Soon, Yuan Tao and Zheng Yang returned with new clothes. After the 3 master teachers changed into them, they felt much more comfortable. Zhang Laoshe, you should probably know the reason why we came to look for you. Regaining the disposition of a master teacher, Lu Ling looked at the young man before him with a smile. After the past few days of observation, they were extremely pleased with both Zhang Laoshe and his students. They would have truly won the lottery if they could accept an apprentice of such caliber under their wings. Knowing that the 3 of them were true master teachers, the several students immediately focused all of their attention onto the conversation between them to see what was going on. I can roughly guess. The 3 master teachers hoped to take me in as your apprentice, right? Knowing that he had to face this sooner or later, Zhang Xian dived right into the subject. Apprentice? The 3 master teachers want to accept Zhang Laoshe as their apprentice? If Zhang Laoshe accepts it, he would be an assistant master teacher. Upon hearing those words, the faces of Zhao Ye and the others immediately flushed with excitement. The dream of all teachers was to become a master teacher, and the requirement of being an apprentice of a master teacher eventually turned out to be the barrier preventing them from attaining their dream. Only when one became a master teacher's apprentice would one have the chance to become a master teacher. Instead of finding Lu Sun Laoshe, the 3 master teachers came straight for Zhang Laoshe. How could they not be excited? That's right. The 3 of us have such an intention. You can feel free to choose whomever you wish to join. Upon seeing that the other party understood the situation, Lu Ling nodded his head with satisfaction. Feel free to choose whomever he wishes to join. His students were so excited they wanted to jump up and down. That's to say that all three of the master teachers had their sights set on Zhang Laoshi. This. Zhang Qian scratched his head embarrassed. May I reject the offer? Putong. 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 Zhao Ye and the others fell to the floor. For someone to reject becoming the apprentice of a master teacher? Surely we heard wrong. Reject? Unable to believe their ears, Lu Ling and the others were stunned. Yes. Zhang Qian nodded his head. Possessing the library of heaven's path, Zhang Qian was destined for great heights. Honestly, Zhang Qian found Lu Ling and the others nowhere near good enough. We understand that we're being a little too rash on the matter, so you need not hurry to give us your reply. How about this, we'll give you some time to consider the matter. It isn't too late to reply to us tomorrow. Not expecting the other party to reject him, Lu Ling knew that he had been a little rash on this matter and smiled awkwardly. It's all right to answer tomorrow as well. Give it a good thought today. Without the identity of an assistant master teacher and a master teacher's recommendation, it is impossible for one to take the master teacher examination, Zhuang Xian added. Indeed. Given your capability and your talents, it is a waste if you don't become a master teacher. Zheng Fei chirped in as well. Oh. I will think over the matter then. Zhang Qian nodded his head. Zhang Qian had decided to take the master teacher examination, but he was reluctant to acknowledge any of these three fellows as his teacher. It wasn't for any other reason than because these three had been trying to become Yang Shi's students. They were giving their all to become his students while trying to take Zhang Qian as their student. What in the world was this? That's good. We'll come over tomorrow then. Seeing that the other party didn't directly reject them, they heaved sighs of relief. Right, Lu Shi, Zhuang Shi, and Lu Shi, I happen to have a question to ask you three. Seeing that the other party didn't persist on the matter, Zhang Qian thought of the poison aura in his body and opened his mouth to ask the question. Oh. Feel free to speak of whatever it is that's on your mind. As long as it's something we know of, we'll try our best to help you. Lu Ling stroked his beard. Since that's the case, I would like to ask where I can find books on poison. The more, the better, Zhang Qian spoke. As Zhang Qian had no idea what the poison aura in his body was, it would be hard for him to ask the master teachers about it. Also, it might also result in unnecessary trouble, so he might as well just ask them for books. In any case, as long as there were sufficient books on poison, through the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhang Qian should be able to easily find out what poison it was, and solving the problem would be simple then. Books regarding poison. Not expecting the young man before them to ask such a question, the three master teachers exchanged glances. In the field of poison, no one can surpass the poison hall. After hesitating for a moment, Lu Ling said this with a grim expression. Poison hall. Zhang Qian was confused. Even though there were many books regarding poison in the Tianxian Kingdom book collection vault, there wasn't any record of such a location. Thus, this was the first time Zhang Qian was hearing the term as well. Yeah, poison hall. Lu Ling nodded his head. Actually, the Poison Hall refers to the Poison Master Guild. Poison Master Guild? Zhang Qian blinked his eyes blankly. Since it's a guild, it should be called Poison Master Guild just like the Apothecary Guild, Blacksmith Guild, and Teachers Guild. Why would it be called the Poison Hall? The name sounded eerie. Do you feel like since it's a guild, it should just name itself as a guild just like the others? Are you wondering why it would be called the bizarre name of Poison Hall? Seeing through Zhang Qian's doubts, Lu Ling explained, actually, this has something to do with the identity of poison masters. Poison masters are adept in utilizing poison. Often, their means can get through the guard of others, inducing massive fear against them. Reviling their underhanded means, they are classified in the lower 9 paths. On the other hand, due to their fearsome means, countless experts of the continent allied together to deal with the Poison Master Guild. Back then, when the guild was destroyed, countless poison masters died in the ordeal. Afterwards, even though they had managed to pass down their heritage, in fear of the same thing occurring to them once more, they dared not appear in the world. As a result, they secretly formed the Poison Hall and hid amid the mountains and rivers. This is precisely the reason why even though there are poison masters, they are hard to find within the kingdom. If one has to speak of a place which has the most books on poison, it has to be here. It's just that even I cannot confirm its exact location. Lu Ling shook his head. Ah. Zhang Xian smiled wryly. In the end, Lu Ling's words turned out to be pointless. What Zhang Xian needed now were books on poison. If he was unable to find the poison hall, there wasn't any point listening to all of this. Playing with poison is extremely dangerous. Many poison masters, in order to concoct more potent poisons, often use their own bodies as test subjects. As such, very few of them live for long. Very few people want to come into contact with poison without sufficient reason. Zhang Laoshe, may I know what you intend to do by asking for books of this kind? The three master teachers were perplexed. Due to the lethal nature of poison, unless one possessed a great hatred for someone stronger than them and needed the strength of poison to exact their vengeance, very few people would dabble in it. Even if people didn't try the poison they concocted for themselves, coming into contact with poison daily would also result in minute doses of it being absorbed into their body daily. Eventually, it would accumulate, so most poison masters couldn't live for long. This had also caused most of their personalities to be eccentric. It could be said that just speaking of this occupation was sufficient to leave people apprehensive. Very few people would be willing to come into contact with it. This Zhang Laoshe refused to become their apprentice and asked them about this matter instead. The master teachers couldn't stop from feeling curious about this matter. I am just asking out of curiosity. Zhang Xian smiled. He couldn't speak about the matter of him being poisoned. Otherwise, it would lead to questions like, why isn't the poison acting up, or, why is your Jinqi so pure, and eventually, it might expose the existence of the Library of Heaven's Path. This item was his greatest secret, and he would never tell anyone about it. Seeing that the other party was unwilling to say anything about the matter, Lu Ling asked no further either. After pondering for a moment, he added, actually, even though I don't know the exact location of the Poison Hall, I've heard that there is a Poison Hall branch in the Red Lotus Ridge, which is in the extreme northwest of Tier 1 Tianwu Kingdom. Of course, this is only hearsay. As for whether there is truly a branch there, I can't really confirm it. Tier 1 Tianwu Kingdom. Zhang Xian nodded his head. A book regarding the country appeared in his head. If they had a one-star master teacher backing the country, it would be eligible to be ranked as a Tier 2 kingdom. Given how Tianxian Kingdom had no master teachers at all, it could only be considered as an unranked kingdom. Tianwu Kingdom was the strongest kingdom of the surrounding territories, reaching the level of Tier 1. It was even higher ranked than the Beiwu Kingdom Lu Ling came from. It was said that there was a 2-star master teacher backing the country. This country wasn't too far from Tianxian Kingdom. They could even be considered as close neighbors since they both bordered the Red Lotus Ridge. Other than the Poison Hall, the Master Teacher Pavilion also has books on all occupations. Plenty of them are on poison too. Even though the quantity and quality can't be compared to the former, the size of its collection far exceeds that of some countries. If you only wish to gain an understanding of the occupation, you should visit the Master Teacher Pavilion to take a look. But of course, if you wish to enter the book collection vault, you have to first pass the Master Teacher examination. Zhuang Xian smiled. It seemed like he hadn't given up on the idea of having Zhang Xian come under him as his apprentice. Master Teacher Pavilion? Yeah. Even though master teachers come into the Teachers Guild in name, due to their prestigious identity, the guild isn't capable of interfering in their affairs. Thus, another autonomous organization was created to govern the master teachers and conduct examinations. It's known as the Master Teacher Pavilion. Zhuang Xian added, the Master Teacher Pavilion is actually just like any other guild. The treasures and secret manuals within are only accessible by master teachers. Its book collection vault contains the knowledge of countless occupations, so there's surely books regarding poison there. Oh. Zhang Qian nodded his head. It seemed that if he wasn't able to find the poison hall, becoming a master teacher and entering the book collection vault of the master teacher pavilion could solve his current problem too. Alright, we hope that you can give this matter more thought. Given your talent, as long as you study diligently, you will surely be able to become a master teacher one day. You shouldn't think too much about other things. The four of them chatted a while longer, but upon seeing that the young man seemed to be truly disinterested in becoming their apprentice, Lu Ling offered Zhang Qian advice before leaving with the other two. They knew that it was best to slowly convince a talented teacher like Zhang Qian instead of pressuring him. Perhaps he might truly change his mind within a couple of days. If they were to keep persistently questioning him about the matter, it might have the opposite effect instead. After the trio left, the several students immediately ran up to Zhang Laoshe. Admiration glimmered in their eyes. Did you see that? Other teachers would definitely lose their mind upon hearing that a master teacher wanted to accept them as their student, yet our Zhang Laoshe simply rejected 3 master teachers calmly. Isn't he too incredible? Don't give me those looks. I haven't settled the score with you all from the recent event. Zhang Qian's complexion darkened. These brats had actually said that the 3 master teachers were lecherous peeping toms. It was fortunate that it was only ink and the other party didn't intend to pursue the matter. Otherwise, even Zhang Qian would be stumped by this problem. After rebuking them, he went ahead to guide them one by one. After all was said and done, Zhang Qian heaved a sigh of satisfaction. Even though these fellows were mischievous and unreliable, they were extremely serious in their training, not slacking off in the least. Other than Yuan Tao, his other students had all reached Fighter 2 Dan Dantian realm. Initially, he thought that the one who would improve the most would be Zheng Yang, but contrary to his expectations, it turned out to be the weak-looking Wang Ying. In just a short few days, her cultivation had soared. Not only did she break through the Fighter 2 Dan barrier, she reached the pinnacle of Fighter 2 Dan intermediate stage, and she was currently just a step away from reaching advanced stage. The rate of her improvement was nothing short of shocking. Even though this lass may seem airhead on the surface and she blushed easily when speaking with others, she actually possessed an extraordinarily determined will. When she hardened her resolve to accomplish something, not even Zhao Ye would be able to best her. His other students had also done well. However, that was to be expected. After all, he had imparted them with the cultivation techniques and battle techniques compiled by the library. If they were unable to achieve such a level of improvement, it would truly be embarrassing. Through the library, Zhang Qian could tell that his 5 students had been secretly cultivating a joint attack formation. Taking a single look, there weren't any disadvantages to the formation. Instead, it augmented their combined fighting power. As long as they weren't fooling around, Zhang Qian wouldn't interfere in their affairs. Nurturing a student was different from raising a plant or a pet. A teacher ought to guide them onto the right path and impart them knowledge to help with their cultivation. Otherwise, if a teacher restricted them in whatever they did, they would lose their independence, becoming nothing more than puppets. It was just like how the rote learning method in Zhang Qian's previous life had killed the creativity of numerous children, mass-producing adults who were only capable of testing well. Right after finishing his lecture, Zhang Qian would leave the classroom. In fact, there were times he would stay out for several days. While there were compelling reasons for his absence, Zhang Qian wasn't being irresponsible. Rather, he was worried that if he kept interfering in their training, it might impede them from becoming true experts in the future. A true teacher should impart knowledge and guide students, but not restrain them. In order to take the master teacher examination, I need to become an apprentice. But I don't want to acknowledge Lu Ling and the others as my teacher. After instructing his students one by one, Zhang Qian fell into a dilemma once more. Apprentice, master teacher, apprentice. It felt cyclical, leaving Zhang Qian with a splitting headache. Right, I can choose to become my own apprentice instead. After being conflicted for a period of time, a thought abruptly appeared in Zhang Xian's mind. Other than Zhang Xian, wasn't he Yang Shi as well? In the minds of others, Yang Shi was a master teacher as well. If Zhang Xian became his apprentice, wasn't he also qualified to take the master teacher examination? Even if Yang Shi was unable to provide a recommendation letter for him, he could ask Lu Ling and the others to do so in his place. When Yang Shi asks for a favor, who wouldn't comply? I'll do it that way then. Chuckling softly, Zhang Xian left the academy and headed toward his mansion. If he wanted to become Yang Shi's apprentice, Yang Shi had to speak. Leaving the academy, Lu Ling and the others smiled bitterly at their failure of being unable to take Zhang Xian as their apprentice. Putting aside a remote country like Tianxian Kingdom, even in Beiwu Kingdom and Hanwu Kingdom, as long as they showed the slightest bit of intention of taking an apprentice, countless star teachers would come fighting for the position. Yet they had revealed their intentions clearly to this fellow, only to be rejected by him. They very much so wondered what was in his head. To be able to reach an astounding level of mastery in painting, pill forging, and the way of tea at such a young age, it is natural for him to be complacent. Lu Ling commented, remembering the varied and incredible feats the other party had done. Indeed. We need not hurry. Tomorrow is the teacher evaluation between him and Lu Sun. Perhaps he's thinking of achieving a flawless victory before coming under us. This way, it would be much more justified and glorious, Zhuang Xian guessed upon remembering the event. That's possible. The other two nodded their heads in unison. The reason for his rejection might be due to this matter as well. Otherwise, even if he was unwilling to become their student, would he be willing to give up on the opportunity to become eligible for the master teacher examination? This was the pursuit of all teachers in the world. It was just like becoming an expert in the path of cultivation, it was something that no one in the occupation would be able to resist. We must come over to watch tomorrow's duel. However, before that, should we deal with our personal affairs first? Lu Ling suddenly said. You mean, acknowledging Yang Shi as our teacher? Zhuang Xian's eyes lit up. It was impossible for a person to only have a single master in their entire life. This logic applied to master teachers too. Upon reaching higher levels, one could acknowledge another teacher to learn from them. Indeed. Since Yang Shi was able to easily help Shen Hong and Zheng Fei achieve breakthroughs, it is clear that his methods are much more advanced than ours. If we can acknowledge him as our teacher, we might be able to break through our bottleneck and gain the qualification to become 2-star master teachers. In fact, we might even pass with a single attempt with his guidance. The more Lu Ling said, the brighter his eyes shone. A good teacher would be beneficial to their future development. After the past few incidents, Yang Shi had fully displayed his extraordinary capabilities. If they could acknowledge him as their teacher, they might be able to reach greater heights. Reaching the level in their dreams, but beyond their reach. To qualify for the 2-star master teacher examination, besides possessing 2 supporting occupations, one's cultivation must also be at least of Zhongshe realm. Throughout the years, we have visited countless experts to seek advice on our cultivation, but even so, we are unable to make the final breakthrough. Our only hope is with Yang Shi. Zhuang Xian nodded his head as well. When one becomes a Zhongshe, his lifespan is increased. Just this in itself is an allure that no one is able to resist. Having been stuck in half-Zhongshe for a very long time, they had visited numerous 2-star master teachers, but even so, were unable to make that final leap forward. A few days ago, when they witnessed Yang Shi guide the dying Shen Hong to achieve a breakthrough, they could no longer hold themselves back. Since Shen Hong was able to do it, they are definitely able to do it as well. However, that is only if Yang Shi is willing to guide them. No matter what, we should give it another try. Perhaps, we might be able to succeed. Zheng Fei said. Since the moment Yang Shi assisted him to reach half-Zhongshe, the intention to acknowledge him as his teacher had already sprouted in him. But back then, his intentions were disregarded and he didn't dare to ask any further. But now, even Lu Shi and Zhuang Shi are trying hard, so naturally, he can't lag behind them. Alright, let's go and take a look. As they thought of this, the three master teachers hesitated no more and headed straight for the mansion. Brother Lu, I've bought the pills. Do you want to reconsider the matter? Are you really going to use it? In Lu Sun's classroom, Wang Chao stared at his good friend with worry. Even though these pills can generate a massive boost in one's cultivation within a short time span, there are heavy repercussions on the user's body. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Receiving the pills from his friend's hands, Lu Sun hesitated for a moment before commanding his students. Shortly, the students, whose name were on the teacher evaluation name list, appeared before him. Zhu Hong, Mo Xiao, Du Lei, Bao Chao, and Kong Jie. Teacher. These five stood erect before Lu Sun, and every single one of them exuded a deep and powerful aura. After half a month of cultivation, just like Zhen Yang and the others, they had all reached Fighter 2 Dan Dantian realm. However, unlike Wang Ying and the others, they had all reached Fighter 1 Dan Jushi realm pinnacle, even before they acknowledged Lu Sun as their teacher, and all they were lacking was just an impetus for their breakthrough. Even Kong Jie, who is slightly inferior to the other four, with various resources focused on him, managed to achieve a breakthrough. Here is a pill. Consuming this pill expands your Dantian, allowing you to achieve a breakthrough by tonight to reach Fighter 3 Danjinshi realm. This way, you will definitely be able to achieve victory in the teacher evaluation. Lifting the pills in his hands, Lu Sun scanned the faces of his students. Without hiding anything, he spoke of the flaws of the pill as well. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Since it is able to help someone achieve a breakthrough so quickly, naturally, there are side effects. After reaching Jinchi realm, your cultivation speed will be decreased to be 70% of what it was previously. However, as long as I become a master teacher, I will make sure to resolve this issue. I will even accept you as my direct disciples and oversee your training personally. Of course, the choice is up to you. I will not force any of you. If you were to lose, it will only mean that our relationship as teacher and student has come to an end. After which, he placed the pill down and looked at them. Even though he had made his choice and bought the pills, he nevertheless left the final decision in the hands of his students. He desired victory but was still unable to bring himself to force his students to consume the pills against their will. There is a boundary that teachers should never cross. Teachers have their own dignity as well. Having taught innumerable students over so many years, he couldn't bear to stoop to such unscrupulous means for victory. I believe in Lu Laoshi. Without hesitating for long, Zhu Hong stepped forward. Training by the conventional route, it is nigh impossible to reach Jinchi realm without 2 to 3 years of effort. If this pill can allow one to achieve it in a single night, so what if their future cultivation will be affected? Who can guarantee that their cultivation would be smooth sailing? Furthermore, once they become a direct disciple of Lu Laoshi, this won't be a problem. When studying under the same teacher, there is a huge difference between a normal student and a direct disciple. Usually, when a teacher imparts knowledge, it was done with hundreds of people in attendance. Thus, it is impossible to offer pointers tailored to personal needs to every single student. In the case of normal students, they will have to undergo trial and error in order to find their way forward. It is as though a huge pot of vegetable being seasoned with the same seasoning, the flavor will only be average at best. However, being a direct disciple is different. It is as though a vegetable specially cooked in a small pot. His teacher holds personal consultations, offering one pointer so that he will not waste his time on useless things. Even if the pill does affect their growth, with this kind of guidance, they will still be in for a bright future. Thinking of this, Zhu Hong made a stand and swiftly swallowed the pill. The pill, upon being placed in his mouth, melted immediately, turning into a surge of unique energy which gushed through his meridians. Seeing that Zhu Hong had made his decision so quickly, Lu Sun nodded his head in satisfaction. He placed his hands on the other party's back and slowly infused Jinqi into the other party's body, guiding this surge of energy. After an unknown period of time, with a crisp sound, Zhu Hong stood up abruptly, exhaled a mouthful of turbid breath, and the aura he exuded amplified greatly. Fighter 3 Dan, Jinqi Realm. Just as Lu Sun had said, consuming the pill raised his cultivation by an entire level. Incredible, I want to give it a try as well. Witnessing the person achieve a breakthrough successfully, Mo Xiao, Du Lei, Bai Chao, and Kong Jia could no longer hold themselves back and walked forward simultaneously. The rest of them had made up their minds as well. If Lu Laoshi really becomes a master teacher, as his direct disciple, their standing would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. With that in mind, they chose to take the pill as well. Soon, all of them reached Fighter 3 Dan Jinqi Realm. Good, good. Seeing that all 5 students had reached Fighter 3 Dan Jinqi Realm, Lu Sun's eyes gleamed with excitement. Putting aside the freshmen, their current strength would allow them to compete even against top students who had been in the academy for several years. Tomorrow will be the day where I, Lu Sun, perform before everyone else. I shall astonish the entire academy and silence all of those discussions behind my back. Clenching his fists tightly, Lu Sun regained the confidence which he lost during the day and roared mightily. So what if he is skilled in the way of tea? So what if he is a grandmaster painter? As a teacher, I, Lu Sun, am not inferior to anyone. You 3 master teachers, I will show you tomorrow that I am the best choice you can make. Old master, the 3 master teachers have been waiting for you for a very long time. Returning to the residence, Sun Cheng immediately stepped forward to welcome Yang Shi. They're here. He was considering whether to send someone to invite them, but it turned out that the 3 fellows were even more enthusiastic than him. Zhang Xian chuckled lightly. Walking into the lounge, he saw the 3 master teachers seated, and upon seeing Yang Shi enter the room, their eyes glittered with excitement. Lu Ling, Zhuang Xian, Zheng Fei, pays respect to Yang Shi. The trio bowed immediately. May I know what you 3 have for me, visiting me at such a late hour? Zhang Xian sat down and instructed for a cup of tea. After a long and slow sip, he finally turned to look at them, his expression impassive. After a trip to the Qian residence and the academy, the sun had already set by the time Zhang Xian arrived at the mansion. Yang Shi, the 3 of us earnestly wish to acknowledge you as our teacher, and we hope that you can accept us. Lu Ling and the others quickly stood up, clasped their hands, and bowed deeply. Anxious, they sneaked glances at Zhang Xian. Age doesn't determine knowledge. Even though they are significantly older than Yang Shi, the other party is clearly more capable than them. Age isn't a determining factor for one to acknowledge a teacher. You wish to acknowledge me as your teacher? Lifting his cup, Zhang Xian removed the floating tea leaves elegantly. Even as he spoke those words, there wasn't the slightest hint of emotion on his face. After having disguised himself for the past few days, he is no longer the amateur whom anyone could see through easily. Every single movement of his carries authority and magnanimity. The atmosphere in the room stilled. Yes. Even though the 3 of us aren't talented, we can serve by your side and share your burdens. The breathing of the 3 master teachers hastened. The last few times that they were here, they did express their intention to acknowledge Yang Shi as their teacher, but they hadn't spoken of it clearly. Now that they've said it out loud, if they were to get rejected, it would be over. If I'm not wrong, the reason why you all wish to acknowledge me as your teacher is that your cultivation has reached a bottleneck, and you are unable to achieve a breakthrough. If you were to become my student, you might be able to make this final step and advance further. Without even lifting his head, Zhang Xian's voice was indifferent, as though a block of silent ice. Ah yes. Having their intentions exposed, Lu Ling and the others blushed in embarrassment. Seems that you are honest. Seeing that they didn't deny the matter, Zhang Xian nodded his head. We hope that Yang Shi can fulfill our wish. Lu Ling and the others gritted their teeth. Zhang Xian didn't reply. Instead, he slowly put down his teacup, stood up, and walked to the center of the room. The three master teachers were wondering what he was going to do when a calm voice suddenly sounded. I, Yang Shi, have traveled and visited countless countries. I prefer to live a quiet and tranquil life, so I don't reveal my identity easily. You probably haven't heard of my name, even in the other countries, am I right? Yes. When they heard the name Yang Qian, they had specially looked into the matter, but there isn't such a person in the surrounding kingdoms. Back then, they thought that the latter was simply using this fake name to impersonate a master teacher, but from the looks of it now, it seems like Yang Shi had just been keeping a low profile. If I don't want others to know that I am a master teacher, even if you were to check with the master teacher pavilion, you won't be able to find anything. Zhang Xian said. However, in Qian Kingdom, I revealed my identity, even helping others with their problems. Do you know why? The reason why Zhang Xian said all of that in advance was to lay the foundations so that they wouldn't doubt his identity. After all, the name Yang Qian is fake, and they won't be able to find this name in the Master Teacher Pavilion if they were to check. With these words, not only would the other party not doubt his words when they are unable to find it, they will even feel reverence for him. For his identity to be unable to found in the Master Teacher Pavilion, how incredible does he have to be? We apologize for our ignorance. Lu Ling and the others stared at Yang Shi. Actually, they had felt perplexed on this point as well. If such an incredible master teacher really chooses to blend in with the crowd, who will be able to tell his true identity? Yet, everyone in Qian Kingdom found out about his identity. During my travel, I happened to meet a competent youngster. Very satisfied with him, I accepted him as my direct disciple. However, I won't be staying here for long, and afraid that he might be oppressed by others, I revealed my status intentionally so as to give him a title. With both hands behind his back, Zhang Xian stood erect at the center of the hall, as though a towering mountain. A competent youngster. Accepted him as a direct disciple. Lu Ling and the others stared at one another. Suddenly, they thought of something and their eyes narrowed. Can it be that Yang Shi's direct disciple is Hengtian Academy's Zhang Xian Laoshi? If that is the case, everything makes sense. For a low-level teacher at a remote kingdom to be able to come up with such incredible theories and become a grandmaster painter, expert tea master, and more importantly reject the apprenticeship of the three master teachers. Probably, only a student of Yang Shi is able to do so. Zhang Xian was delighted to observe that the other side had caught quickly, and he was able to save his saliva, nodding his head in satisfaction. Zhang Xian is my direct disciple. If you want to come under my tutelage, that would mean that he's your senior. Chapter 212, The Teacher Evaluation Arrives. Senior. The mouths of the three master teachers twitched and their bodies swayed. The twist came too abruptly. They were thinking of accepting the other party as their apprentice when all of a sudden, he had become their senior. To call a fellow who isn't even 20 their senior. The three master teacher felt dizzy. They found the relationship extremely peculiar. However, the bizarre expression on their face merely flickered on their faces for an instant. Agitation and excitement took over their expressions. Does Yang Shi mean that you are willing to accept us? Lu Ling suddenly came to a realization. Trembling in agitation, his face creased so tightly together that it seemed to be able to squeeze a mosquito to death. Since Yang Shi had told them to address Zhang Xian as their senior, doesn't this mean that he is willing to accept them as his student? Thank you, Yang Shi. Zhuang Xian and Zheng Fei immediately knelt to the floor. Even though the other party hadn't expressed his intentions clearly, he wasn't objectionable to the issue. If they don't hurry up and the other party changes his mind all of the sudden, won't they cry themselves to death? These two fellows, seeing his old buddies react so quickly, Lu Ling quickly followed suit and knelt down as well. Zhang Xian didn't turn around, and his expression remained completely calm. Since you have all become my students, I will assist you with your cultivation. However, I am used to wandering about and I won't be staying here for long. Even though Zhang Xian is my direct disciple, he is way too young and his cultivation is still immature. He might require your assistance. Teacher, rest assured. Since we've come under your tutelage, we will definitely follow your rules. Given that Zhang Xian is our senior now, as long as it is within our capabilities, we will make sure to assist him. Lu Ling and the others expressed their sentiments. There is a set of rules that when a master teacher accepts a disciple. A direct disciple is a rank higher than that of normal students. That is to say, even if the direct disciple is the youngest of the lot, before the other students, he is still considered the senior. Even though it sounds peculiar, there had been many of such exceptions in the master-teacher pavilion, so it isn't anything significant. Since they had decided to acknowledge Yang Shi as their teacher, Zhang Xian would naturally become their senior. Thus, as juniors, they wouldn't spare any effort to assist him. Show me your battle technique. Having confirmed the teacher-student relationship with the trio, Zhang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. Yes. Knowing that Yang Shi was going to guide them on their cultivation, they stood up immediately and excitedly. It didn't take long before the rustling of wind sounded in the room as the trio displayed their battle techniques. After an unknown period of time, the trio clasped their hands and took their leave. Even though they were still half Zongshi and they had yet to achieve a breakthrough, the excitement on their faces was almost impossible to hide. Actually, Zhang Xian was capable of helping the trio reach Zongshi realm on the spot, but if he were to do so, his pure Zhenqi and low cultivation realm would be exposed. This could have potentially led to countless troubles in the future. After some contemplation, he decided to simply point out the flaws in their cultivation. In his words, having pointed out their flaws, and it is a trial to the trio to achieve a breakthrough with the new knowledge. As one-star master teachers, if they are unable to achieve a breakthrough even after knowing all these, it would show that there are fundamental flaws in their talents, and he would have to reconsider his decision to accept the trio as his students. Hearing those words, the three master teachers didn't dare to say anything. They listened attentively to the flaws the other party spoke of, afraid that they would mishear anything. However, now that they know where their mistakes lie, given their knowledge and comprehension on cultivation, reaching Zongshi realm becomes only a matter of time. Old Master, Emperor Shenjue is waiting outside. Zhang Xian was about to rest after dealing with the three master teachers when Sun Chang came in with the report. He's here. Can it be? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. Have him enter. Yang Shi. Soon, Emperor Shenjue walked in, clasped his hands, and bowed. His gaze was filled with passion and reverence. Not only did he save the dying old ancestor, he even helped him reach Zongshi realm. Those feats are something that even a two-star master teacher would find hard to accomplish. Perhaps the person standing before him is a three-star master teacher, or even someone much more incredible. Even the emperor of a Tier 1 kingdom would find it hard to meet someone of his caliber. Reporting to Yang Shi, I have managed to gather the Tongxian realm secret manuals that you had me collect. Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. His condition for treating Shenhong was for Shenjue to collect these Tongxian realm cultivation technique manuals in his stead. It has been a few days since then, and given the influence of the royal family, collecting thousands of such books wasn't any issue. Yang Shi, please look through them. As Shenjue gestured with his hand, thousands of books stacked up in a pile before him. He brought all of the books in his storage ring. Walking forward to pick up a few books, Zhang Xian quickly flipped through them, placed them down, and proceeded to do the same with other books. From the very start, when Yang Shi had made such a request, Emperor Shenjue was already perplexed why such an incredible master teacher would need Tongxian realm secret manuals. Upon seeing this situation, his confusion worsened. If the other party opens the book and reads through them, Emperor Shenjue could have attributed the matter to him studying. But to flip through them just like that, what is he doing? Even though Emperor Shenjue was perplexed, he didn't dare to mention anything. He stood obediently by the side, quietly observing. Walala, walala. In a single go, Zhang Xian flipped through the thousands of secret manuals. Even though the manuals gathered were rather average in standard, the quantity more than made up for it. Given that Zhang Qian possessed the Library of Heaven's Path, it is the best situation that could have happened. Correct. With a jolt of his mind, the books converged to form a single entity in the library. Tongxian Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art. Alright, I'm done. You can take them away. Zhang Qian casually waved his hands. Since he had already created replicas of all of the books in the library, there was no need for him to keep the physical copies. This Emperor Shenjue was taken aback. In order to gather all of these secret manuals, he had paid quite a substantial amount. Initially, he thought that Yang Shi would at least take a look. In the end, he simply casually flipped through them and returned them to him. Are these books not to your liking? If so, I can search for more. After hesitating for a moment, Emperor Shenjue couldn't help but ask. There's no need. I'm already done reading these books, you can take them back. Zhang Qian casually waved his hands. Done reading these books? Emperor Shenjue nearly fell to the ground. What can you possibly have read like that? Casually flipping through those books like that, and you say that you are done reading them? Do your eyes grow on your hands? Yes. Even though he felt so stifled that he could spurt blood, he dared not to question any further. He kept all of the books in his storage ring, clasped his hands, and said, Then, I'll be taking my leave. Zhang Qian casually waved him away. Emperor Shenjue returned back to the royal palace immediately after leaving the mansion. Have you passed the books to Yangshi? Old ancestor Shenhong walked over. I passed him the books, but he didn't want them and he gave them back. Even until now, Emperor Shenjue had maintained his confused expression. Gave them back? Is Yang Shi unsatisfied with the books? That's not it, then. Has he finished reading them? He didn't read through them at all. Then, what did he want the books for? Shenhong was perplexed. He simply fiddled around with it. Fiddled? Shenhong blinked his eyes. I can understand if you wish to fiddle around with beautiful ladies, but why did you fiddle around with those books? Indeed, it is impossible for us to understand the minds of geniuses. After contemplating over the matter for an extremely long time, they finally arrived at this conclusion. After Emperor Shenjue left, Zhang Qian told Sun Chang that he would not be seeing anyone else, before returning to his room. Time to cultivate. Zhang Qian immediately turned his attention to the 7 Dan Heaven's Path Divine Art which was just formed. The opening of acupoints, the connecting of the meridians, allowing Jinqi to flow without any hindrance, that is Tongxian, the words appeared clearly in his mind. As this version of Heaven's Path Divine Art was formed by compiling thousands of secret manuals together, there were no problems with it all. Zhang Qian read and cultivated via the method explained within simultaneously. Pure Jinqi began to circulate within his body, and according to the unique cultivation method written in the perfect manual, the Jinqi revolved unceasingly. Boom! With just a single circulation, he had barged through the bottleneck and spiritual energy in the air surged into his body with hysteria. His Jinqi and strength improved exponentially. Tongxian Realm Primary Stage. Tongxian Realm Intermediate Stage. In no time, he had achieved Tongxian Realm Pinnacle. Along with the rise in my cultivation, my speed of improvement is slowing. Feeling that his cultivation had reached another bottleneck, Zhang Qian stopped. As Zhang Qian had to deduce the correct acupoints one by one in Pixue Realm, it wasn't an accurate gauge of his cultivation speed. On the other hand, when he was at Dingli Realm, cultivating via the complete version of Heaven's Path Divine Art, he took around 2 hours, but now, it took a whole 10 minutes longer. Looks like the higher one's cultivation reaches, the more difficult it is to cultivate. Zhang Qian lamented with a grim expression. If anyone else were to know his thoughts, they would definitely want to strangle him to death. You call an additional 10 minutes difficult? Even top-notch geniuses, with the augmentation of countless treasures, to cultivate from Tongxian Realm Primary Stage to Pinnacle would take a minimum of 10 years of hard work. Yet, You only took 10 minutes more than 2 hours and you think that your cultivation speed has slowed the heck, why don't you go and die? I should check out how much my strength has improved. Zhang Qian stood up and walked over to the strength measuring rock pillar. Using just the strength from his Jinqi, he sent his fist into it. Wang! A line of numbers slowly floated into view. 600 ding. A look of delight immediately appeared on Zhang Qian's face. At Pixue Realm Pinnacle, he had opened 108 acupoints, granting him an additional 108 ding of strength. In addition to the previous 20 ding, he possessed a total of 128 ding of Jinqi strength. Now that he has achieved a breakthrough, his strength increased by several folds. Usually, a Tongxian realm expert would possess 100 ding of strength at primary stage, 200 ding at intermediate stage, 300 ding at advanced stage, and 400 ding at pinnacle. With a Jinqi strength of 600 ding, Zhang Qian is able to match up to a half Zongshi. A Zongshi expert wields tremendous strength, and their blows easily exceed 1,000 ding. Those who possess strength between 400 ding and 1,000 ding are known as half Zongshi. If he were to add the 90 ding of strength from his physical body, his strength would almost reach 700 ding. With such strength, his prowess would be the top few even among half Zongshis. Finally, I possess the power to protect myself. Now that he has such commensurate and mighty power, coupled with his library of Heaven's Path ability to see through flaws, he can finally stand against top-notch experts within the country. Zhang Qian heaved a sigh of relief. Even since he noticed the poison aura within his body, the fear that someone is trying to kill him had been plaguing his mind. Without sufficient strength, if the enemy were to make another attempt, he definitely won't be able to resist. Now that Zhang Qian holds strength comparable to a half Zongshi, he finally regained his sense of security. After reinforcing his cultivation and adapting to his newfound strength, Zhang Qian walked out of the room. Unknowingly, a day had passed, and the sun was rising slowly from the east. Its radiance spilled over the horizon and scene of tranquility formed in the city. To think that it is already dawn, looking at the rising sun, Zhang Qian realized that the freshman tournament and the teacher evaluation which he had waited for half a month has arrived. Chapter 213, The Shocked Qian Chao is Pavilion Elder Qian's son. Initially, he had intended to slack off and take a good rest today, but his father forcefully dragged him to the teacher evaluation, filling him with resentment. Father, you could have just asked someone to report the result of the teacher evaluation. There isn't any need for you to come here personally. Indignance showed through Qian Chao's face. No matter what, you're one of the few subjects whom His Majesty values highly. You didn't even attend the duel between the North Marquis and Swift General previously, so why would you spectate some trivial duels among students? He really couldn't understand his father's thoughts. For a pavilion elder who doesn't even need to bow down to His Majesty, he was able to even skip attending a duel between Tier 1 officials in the royal court. Yet, of all things he could have done, he chose to watch students battle one another. Even though the teacher's prestige are at stake at the teacher evaluation, it is in actual fact just a few students fighting one another. A matter of such level should just be left to his subordinates. Why does the commander-in-chief have to appear personally for such a small matter? He would just scare others with his presence. This is a 3-star incident. I have to be here personally, Pavilion Elder Qian replied. I know that it is a 3-star incident. Everything that concerns the academy will have the incident elevated by a single star, and Lu Sun Laoshi is a star teacher, which adds another star. In truth, it is merely a 1-star incident. Qian Chao curled his lips in disdain, thinking nothing much of this matter. Under normal situation, 1-star incidents do not need to be reported to His Majesty. If Pavilion Elder Qian were to personally attend to matters of such insignificance, won't he tire himself to death? This isn't that simple. Pavilion Elder Qian harumphed. How complicated can the matter get? It is just a duel between students. I don't believe that the severity of the matter can get as serious as the duel between North Marquis and Swift General. You must know, back then, just the number of Tier 2 officials who participated in the matter added up to a total of 12. It is definitely the greatest duel of the year. Chao still didn't think that this matter was worthy of such consideration. The North Marquis and Swift General are Tier 1 officials of the kingdom, and the news of the duel was announced beforehand. Countless experts went to spectate the match, but this old man of his refused to go, saying that the matter didn't have enough stars and wasn't worthy of his consideration yet. He decided to watch the fight among a few students. Chao started to doubt whether his father is getting senile. This morning, I received news that clan head Wang Heng of the 4 great clans, clan head Bai Ming, and the elders of both clans had arrived at the Qian Academy. This shows how much they value this matter. Do you think that there is no reason for me to be here? Pavilion Elder Qian said. Clan head Wang Heng is a Tongxian realm pinnacle expert. He is one of the most influential figures, even when considering the entire kingdom into account. Even though clan head Bai Ming's standing is beneath that of clan head Wang Heng, he is nevertheless an official apothecary and is of esteemed standing. You say that they have come to the school to spectate the battle between a few students. Chao didn't believe Pavilion Elder Qian's words. Even though these 2 clan heads don't hold official positions, their true standing isn't inferior to Tier 1 officials of the royal court. How can people of such esteemed standing be interested in a duel between mere students? Take a look yourself. After turning around a bend, they arrived at the Qian Academy dueling platform. The spectator stand was already packed with people. Pavilion Elder Qian casually pointed. I doubt there will be many people in the VIP seats. Muttering to himself, Chao took a glance at the seats and his body froze in shock. Clan head Wang Heng and clan head Bai Ming are really here. That is guild leader Ouyang? Why is guild leader Ouyang of the Apothecary Guild here as well? There is also Apothecary Meng Yan, Apothecary Lin Mu, Apothecary Jin Chen. How can this be possible? Initially, he thought that mere duels among students wouldn't attract much attention. However, with a single look, not only did he notice a clan head of the 4 great clans, more than 10 apothecaries, including the guild leader of the Apothecary Guild, are present as well. What is going on? Apothecaries, as one of the top occupations among the upper 9 paths, possess noble standing. Even Emperor Shenjue finds it hard to arrange a meeting with a figure like guild leader Ouyang, yet he is here watching a bunch of kids fighting one another. Unable to believe his eyes, he felt his head begin to spin. Not just them, look over there. Before he could recover from his shock, Pavilion Elder Qian pointed in another direction. Looking toward the direction where the finger was pointed, Chao shuddered once more. His mouth quivered in astonishment. The kingdom's #1 physician, Master Yuan. That is Elder Qian. He didn't even appear for His Majesty's birthday banquet the last time, coming up with various excuses. Yet, why would he? A moment ago, Chao was still thinking that his father is making a big fuss out of nothing. Yet he now finds himself nearly dying from overwhelming shock. Master Yuan is a powerful figure that even His Majesty has to treat with utmost respect. As for Elder Qian, even His Majesty finds it hard to obtain a single sip of the tea he brews. It is clear just how incredible his standing is. Yet, 2 amazing figures stood patiently on the spectator stand, waiting. Can anyone tell me what is going on? Are you for real? Who are those sitting over there? Why did so many people give up their seats for them? I have no idea as well. They are probably of high standing. He was about to die from shock when Chao suddenly heard the student's exclamation. Lifting his head to take a look, he staggered once more. The three master teachers. They're here as well. What appeared in his vision were the 3 elders. If the few people before had only caused him to be shocked, seeing the 3 master teachers here made him horrified. They are master teachers. They are incredible powers who can disregard his father altogether. Yet, such figures, just like the many others, are seated on the spectators' stand. However, this wasn't the end. He soon saw 2 middle-aged men take a seat. They Emperor Shenjue and City Lord Zhao Feng of Baiyu City. His throat felt dry. He thought that it was embarrassing for his father to lower his status to attend such a lowly event. Yet even His Majesty and City Lord Xiaofeng had come personally. Baiyu City is the second largest city of Tianxian Kingdom, and its city lord's position is second only to the emperor. Is this really just a duel between students? Even if the princes were to battle one another, it wouldn't be such a huge occasion. Actually, the one who holds the most esteemed position among the crowd isn't His Majesty or the three master teachers, it is that person. Seeing his son getting so terrified over the figures who had appeared here, Pavilion Elder Qian spoke. Chao hurriedly looked over and saw an unimpressive plump man. He is, knowing that his father has a huge intelligence network and it is impossible for him to say such words for no good reason, Chao asked. He is Yang Shi's butler, Sun Chang. His presence represents Yang Shi, Pavilion Elder Qian said slowly. Represents Yang Shi. Chao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The Yang Shi who kept Emperor Shenjue at his entrance. Yang Shi's affairs had spread like wildfire, and it was natural that Chao had heard of it. Lu Shi and the others had paid him a visit and admitted that they were inferior to him. Even Emperor Shenjue had to queue outside for an audience with him, for such an incredible master teacher to send his butler here. Chao's body trembled. He was unable to understand why the attention of so many powerful figures were fixated on this duel. Is this really a 3-star incident? Even though it was classified as a 3-star incident, from the looks of it now, it is already a 5-star incident. A grim look appeared on Pavilion Elder Qian. Only a 5-star incident can create such a huge commotion and attract so many noble figures. Can it be Lu Sun Laoshi? After contemplating over the matter, Chao asked with a trembling voice. Lu Sun is a celebrity teacher, and his reputation resounds throughout the kingdom. Can it be his prestige which attracted so many people here? And forcefully pulled a 3-star incident up to a 5-star incident. Him. I also find this matter peculiar. Even though he has a huge reputation, I don't think that he's sufficiently qualified. Right now, my doubts are on Zhangxian Laoshi. Pavilion Elder Qian hesitated for a moment before speaking. It is true that Lu Sun is famous, but at the very most, he can only attract the attention of Wang Hong, Bai Ming, and a few others. It is impossible for guild leader Ouyang and the apothecaries to have come for him. Needless to say, Emperor Shenjue, Elder Tian, and Yang Shi's butler, Sun Chang. Since it isn't him, it has to be his opponent. Zhang Laoshi, the teacher with a terrible reputation. Zhang Xian, hearing the unfamiliar name, Chao was stunned. If what his father said is true, then to be able to attract the presence of so many powerful figures for his affair, how did that fellow do it? He isn't the only one who is on the verge of going insane. The numerous teachers of the academy are also tugging at their hair frenziedly. Are you sure that it isn't the principal dueling with someone else? Otherwise, why would the emperor, 3 master teachers, Elder Tian, Master Yuan, and so many amazing figures appear here? Reverting back to his original look, Zhang Xian led Zhao Ye and the others to the dueling platform. Looking at the crowd on the seats, the excited Emperor Shenjue and the others, a peculiar expression appeared on him. This is the teacher evaluation between me and Lu Sun. What are that bunch of fools doing here? Chapter 214, Yuan Tao vs Kong Jia on the spectator stand. A sliver of worry and agitation appeared on Shin Bai Ru's impeccable face. After the Enlightenment Will trial, she had matters to attend to and left Tianxian Royal City. When she returned yesterday, she heard of the teacher evaluation immediately and nearly fainted from shock. Is this Zhang Xian insane? Who is Lu Sun? He is the living signboard for Hongtian Academy, a true celebrity teacher. To be pitting against him, does he wish to be shamed that much? Moreover, he had specially poached several students to specifically counter Zhao Ye and the rest. Why are you that rash? Gritting her jade teeth tightly, Shin Bai Ru recalled what happened yesterday and felt even more stifled. After knowing of the news, she went to find Zhang Qian to persuade him, but the other party was out. She waited an entire night outside the other party's dormitory yet he didn't come back at all. Tomorrow is the duel, and it is said that Lu Sun had spent the entire night tutoring his students, suffering from a lack of sleep due to that. Yet, you threw your students aside and stayed out. Does anyone prepare for competitions the way you do? Aren't you way too gutsy? Or do you think that the situation is hopeless and that you have given up? After the incidents at the Compendium Pavilion, Hongtian Pavilion, and Enlightenment Will trial, she thought that even though Zhang Laoshe had a terrible reputation, he is actually an extremely prudent person. Now, it turns out that prudent your ass. Who has ever seen a person disappearing for several days right before a competition? What exactly are you thinking? Why do you seem out of sorts the moment you return? She was burning with anger within when a beautiful face suddenly appeared before her. The other stunner of the academy, Han Qiong. Han Qiong is also a rare beauty. In terms of just her appearance, she is slightly inferior to Shen Bairu. However, she is currently 25, the age where a woman's charm shines through. Considering her figure and her feminine charm, the latter would be far from a match. As such, there are many followers of Han Qiong Laoshe, and their numbers far surpass that of Shen Bairu's. As top-class beauties, the two teachers have a good relationship in private and are bosom friends. Who else can it be except for that Zhang Qian? God knows what that fellow is thinking of, to actually duel with Lu Sun Laoshe. Shen Bairu harumphed furiously. If he were to lose, the reputation which he had just built up would be tarnished, and his credibility would crumble. He had just proven at the Enlightenment Will trial that the Education Bureau had framed him. If he were to lose in this duel, all kinds of rumors would be generated and no one would believe his words anymore. From the looks of it, it seems that you are concerned about him. Han Qiong chuckled. A sly grin flashed through her eyes. No one is concerned about him. He is just an arrogant fellow. Shen Bairu harumphed. It's good that you are unconcerned about him. I thought that our great beauty Shen had fallen in love. Han Qiong stretched her back, revealing an astonishingly voluptuous figure. Not lingering on the topic, Han Qiong asked curiously, "Oh right, say who do you think will win the duel?" Zhang Xian's 5 students, Zhao Ye, Zhen Yang, and the others are not bad. However, Lu Sun Laoshe had made arrangements to specifically deal with each of them. Mo Xiao and the others are obviously their nemeses. I'm afraid that it is unlikely for Zhang Xian to win. Upon mentioning who would win in the teacher evaluation, the anger and stifled expression that Shen Bairu had before disappeared, and in its place is calmness and intelligence. After hearing of the duel, she looked into the matter and found out about Lu Sun's arrangements. That fellow's actions do indeed appear unscrupulous, but truthfully speaking, this is also the sign of an outstanding teacher. Regardless of who one faces, he should give it his all and vie for all advantages he can possibly get. This is a basic quality that teachers and cultivators should have. Unless, at which, Shen Bairu paused for a moment. Wisdom reflected in her bright eyes and she said, Zhao Ye and the others have reached Fighter 2 Dan. Through the advantage in their cultivation, they might still be able to match up against Lu Sun's students. Lu Sun had specially found students to deal with Zhao Ye and the others. Unless the latter achieves a breakthrough, thus overcoming their opponent's advantages through sheer strength, it is nigh impossible for them to win. You're right. Han Qiong nodded her head in agreement. Look, Zhang Laoshe and his students have arrived, what powerful aura. Zhao Ye and the others have actually reached Fighter 2 Dan. But it's impossible. Reaching Fighter 2 Dan in half a month's time. The duo was discussing the teacher evaluation when a commotion suddenly broke out among the crowd. Following immediately, they saw Zhang Xian walking up with Zhao Ye and the others following behind him. At this moment, Zhao Ye, Zhen Yang, Wang Ying, and the others were emitting exceptionally powerful auras. Every single gesture of theirs felt mighty and intimidating. Fighter 2 Dan. Except for Yuan Tao, who is at Jushi realm advanced stage, the others have already reached Dantian realm. This, Shen Bairu and Han Qiong's eyes lit up. Even though Zhang Xian Laoshe doesn't look reliable, it seems that he is nevertheless quite capable. Han Qiong smiled. Except for Yuan Tao, who is slightly weaker, the others do possess a chance at victory. Shen Bairu nodded her head in agreement. Halfway through her words, her face suddenly paled. What's wrong? Seeing her good friend fall into such a state, Han Qiong felt baffled. Lu Sun Laoshe and his students have arrived. Shen Bairu clenched her fists tightly. Lu Laoshe. So what if he comes? Zhao Ye and the others have reached Fighter 2 Dan, so they stand a good chance at victory. Han Qiong chuckled. At this point, she suddenly saw Zhu Hong, Mo Shao, and the others who followed closely behind Lu Sun, and her mouth twitched. Fighter 3 Dan. All of his students have reached Fighter 3 Dan. At Fighter 3 Dan Jinqi Realm 1 gains the ability to propel Jinqi and one's strength reaches 300 kilograms. How can Zhang Xian and his students win? The duo froze in astonishment. It is a qualitative difference between 2 Dan and 3 Dan. At 1 Dan Jushi Realm, one absorbs spiritual energy and propel it through his body, thus refining his body to that of a fighter, making it suitable for cultivation. At 2 Dan Dantian Realm, one's body starts to accumulate spiritual energy at his Dantian, expanding it. At 3 Dan Jinqi Realm, one will be able to drive their Jinqi in their body. In terms of physique, reaction speed, or strength, the two prior realms are too far below for comparison. It can even be said that one reaches a whole new level as a life form upon reaching Jinqi Realm. If Lu Sun's students were just ordinary mortals before, they are currently comparable to tigers and wolves. How can the Zhang Xian students match up to them under such conditions? Just a moment ago, upon realizing that Zhao Ye and the others have reached Fighter 2 Dan, Shen Bairu and Han Qiong thought that it is likely that Zhang Xian wins. But from the looks of it now, it would be a miracle if he can even win a single match. There's not a single chance at victory. If he wants to win, only if a miracle happens. Shen Bairu smiled bitterly. Previously carrying hope for Zhang Laoshe's victory, she doesn't dare to harbor such thoughts now. The two beauties were indescribably astounded. The other teachers who are spectating the fight became dumbfounded as well. In an instant, the entire surroundings turned silent. All of them glanced at Zhang Xian with eyes of sympathy. To be competing with Lu Sun Laoshe, he sure is looking for trouble. Fighter 2 Dan against Fighter 3 Dan. It would be hard for Apothecary Zhang to win. Just like the other teachers, guild leader Ouyang and Apothecary Du Man glanced at one another and shook their heads simultaneously. Indeed, the two are entirely different levels. There is no hope of victory. Looks like Apothecary Zhang will lose. The other apothecaries also arrived at the same conclusion, and they sighed in lamentation. With just the appearance of Zhang Xian and Lu Sun on the field, many people have already come to the verdict that the scale of victory is tilted toward Lu Sun. Today is the day of the freshman tournament. But before that, we shall first hold a competition between the teachers, the teacher evaluation between Lu Sun Laoshe and Zhang Xian Laoshe. Seeing that the two stars of the show had arrived, the principal, who hadn't appeared in public for a very long time, stood at the dueling platform, and his voice resounded across the entire academy. Hearing his words, Zhang Xian and Lu Sun led their students onto the dueling platform, and the both of them sat by the side of the ring. The teacher evaluation is a battle between students. Teachers are not allowed to interfere in the battle at all and can only sit by the side. Naturally, the duels between the students are only a part of the teacher evaluation. There are also written papers, potential assessments, and similar trials. However, as cultivators value strength greater than anything else, even if they were to triumph over their opponent in the latter examinations, it wouldn't be a glorious victory. Who wants to go first? Zhang Xian paid no heed to the surrounding discussions. Rather, he looked at his 5 students calmly. Allow me. Yuan Tao stood forward. Zhang Xian nodded his head. Zhang Qian is confident in the other party's abilities now that his emperor bloodline has been awakened. Kong Jia, go up. Defeat that worst student of the academy. Seeing the other party had sent the fellow who is ranked the last in the entrance examination out first, Lu Sun sneered coldly. After a night of individual tutoring, his 5 students had already reinforced their fighter 3 Dan Jinqi primary realm cultivation, and they had already gotten used to propelling the Jinqi in their body. With their strength, defeating a couple of fighter 2 Dan isn't a problem at all. Later on, when you suffer a crushing defeat, I'll see how you are qualified to become the apprentice of the 3 master teachers. A cold gleam flashed across his eyes and Lu Sun sneered. All of his hard work is for today. When his students defeat Zhang Qian in public, that fellow will be humiliated, making it impossible for him to become the apprentice of the 3 master teachers. By then, everyone will know that he, Lu Sun, is an invincible existence in Hengtian Academy. Senior Kong, please go easy on me. Staring at the opponent before him, Yuan Tao looked at him with a pitiful expression. Look at how plump I am, my cultivation is only at fighter 1 Dan as well, go easy. The edges of Kong Jia's lips curled up. His disdain for the latter was clear. I never go easy on others in a battle. Either you admit defeat, or be kicked off the ring by me. Make your own choice. Admit defeat. If I admit defeat, Zhang Laoshe will beat me to death. With a look of distress, Yuan Tao walked forward. If you do not wish to admit defeat, be prepared to be kicked off the ring then. It's that simple. Ignoring the other party's show of weakness, Kong Jia sneered coldly. The battle hadn't begun, yet the fellow is already pleading for mercy. He is truly an eccentric person. However, from this by itself, it can be seen that Zhang Laoshe doesn't have any abilities. Lu Laoshe's victory is certain. How about this? Since I can't defeat you anyway, allow me to put on an act and hit you a few times before I admit defeat. This way, Zhang Laoshe won't be able to blame me for this. If you cooperate with me, I will pay you 300 gold coins as compensation. Walking until he was right before the opponent, Yuan Tao said with a suppressed voice. 300 gold coin. For putting on an act. Kong Jia was taken aback. Do you really have that much gold coin? I do, look. Yuan Tao stretched his left hand into his pocket to retrieve something. At the same time, Kong Jia couldn't help but lower his glance. However, what waited for him wasn't gold coins. Instead, a fist came flying straight toward him. I fell for his trick. At this moment, he understood that this is the other party's ploy. Yuan Tao had planned it out well. Feigning weakness and acting pitifully to convince the other party of his plight before going on to bribe the other party to divert his attention, and last, but not least, launching a sneak attack on him. The heck, do you need to be so shameless? So many students and esteemed figures are looking at them. Can you at least consider your own reputation? He felt a stifled sensation in his chest, but it was already too late for him to react. Narrowing his eyes, he felt an incredible strength surging at him. Before he could do anything, an excruciating pain spread through his face. Who? He was sent flying out of the dueling ring immediately. Chapter 215, I've lost on the seats specially reserved for teachers. Wang Chao was seated upright on one of the seats with a haughty expression on his face. His presence felt like a spear which would pierce into the heavens. Seems like Zhang Qian is truly hopeless. Other people tend to send out their strongest member in the first match, so as to win the first battle and boost the morale of the team. Yet, he chose to send out this useless fellow at the very start. Is he admitting his defeat? Elder Hong Hao stroked his beard, excited by the sight before him. After Zhang Qian exposed the imitation ingredients used in his Hengtian pavilion, his business had been poor. The shop wasn't far from closing down, and he had been wanting to skin this fellow alive. If not for the fear that the academy would find out about the matter, leaving him unable to conduct his business at all, he would have long made a move on Zhang Qian. A fighter 1 Dan advanced realm lad against a fighter 3 Dan opponent. That's a completely one-sided battle. Wang Chao lifted his head up proudly and said, besides, Kong Jia has been practicing Iron Palm from young, granting him an outstanding offensive ability. On top of that, he belongs to the group of geniuses who utilize a style of frenzied offense. Once he begins, Yuan Tao probably won't even survive 10 breaths before flying out of the ring. A Jushi realm advanced stage has around 90 kilograms of strength. On the other hand, a Jinchi realm primary stage has around 300 kilograms of strength. That is a difference of threefold. I will be amazed if he can survive 3 breaths against such an opponent. Elder Hong Hao chuckled. Indeed, if Kong Jia gets serious from the start, that fellow will be destroyed in an instant. Wang Chao agreed. Seems like the first match is Lu Sun's. Of course. In fact, I think that Lu Laoshi will win all 5 matches. This time, Zhang Xian will be utterly humiliated. Elder Hong Hao harumphed coldly. The other party destroyed his source of income. Ever since then, he had been wanting to crush him. Thus, he specially looked for Lu Sun to initiate this matter. If not for his interference, it was unlikely that the teacher evaluation would occur. He has many methods up his sleeves to cause Zhang Xian's downfall. By all means, he wants to make him regret all he had done in Hongtian Pavilion. It started. Not knowing that the other party was thinking about all these, Wang Chao nodded his head before exclaiming. Wang Chao is extremely confident in Kong Jie. The previous day, he helped Lu Sun to mentor these students, thus he is well aware of how scary those 5 are despite their young age. A bunch of fellows who are at most Dantian realm wishes to triumph over them. Isn't this dreaming? Overjoyed at the opportunity to get back at Zhang Xian, he turned to look at the dueling ring, only to see the 2 students facing each other. Senior Kong, please go easy on me. The next moment, Yuan Tao's plea echoed in the air. Upon hearing those words, the duo nearly spurted a mouthful of saliva and laughed heartily. Yuan Tao's voice may not be loud, but they are both experts. With their sharp ears, they could hear his words clearly. To be afraid of the opponent even before the match, what's the point of competing? To instill fear in the enemy's troops before the fight, Lu Laoshi's students sure are incredible. Elder Hong Hao's eyes glowed. Did you see that? The highest realm of teaching a student is not for your student's fighting prowess to be impressive, but for his appearance to instill fear in the other students. This is called a true expert. This is the true might of a celebrity teacher. You, a mere low-level teacher, will never match up to him. From the looks of it, that fellow should admit his defeat. Ah. Hearing the conversation, Wang Chao nodded his head as well and commented. But halfway through his words, his voice ceased abruptly as though someone had grabbed onto his throat. For a moment, he seemed to be suffocating. What's wrong? Immersed in his delight, Elder Hong Hao hadn't paid much attention to the situation on the stage. At this moment, hearing the bizarre edge to the other party's tone, he immediately lifted his head to look at the dueling ring. With a single glance, he nearly spurted blood. Yuan Tao, whom they thought was doomed, stood in the dueling ring, patting the dust off his clothes, looking incredibly valiant on the stage. On the other hand, the powerful Kong Jia lied beneath the dueling ring. His eyes had turned white and it was clear that he had fainted. What is going on? Being outside the dueling ring means instant disqualification. What had happened? Why, in the blink of an eye, that new Jinchi realm genius who was about to display his full might would be suddenly lying on the ground with his eyes rolled back. The competition did end in less than 3 breaths, as they have thought, but why did it end like this? Elder Hong Hao felt as though he was going mad. That fool, stunned, Wang Chao roared. If he could, he would have slapped Kong Jia to death that instant. Given your superior offensive strength and cultivation, why did you chat with him? If you had just attacked him from the start, it wouldn't end up like this. Look at what has happened. Before you could even display your iron palm, you were already sent flying, pummeled to the point that even your parents won't be able to recognize you, you sneak attack. Despicable. Zhu Hong roared. Does anyone spar like that? Just an instant ago, you were talking about how you were going to admit defeat, but in the next, you sent a fist flying straight at the other party's face. Aren't you being too shameless? Where is your sportsmanship? However, watching this sight made Zhu Hong recall the incident when he delivered the war letter to Zhang Xianlaoshi's classroom, causing his mouth to twitch uncontrollably. It seems that of the students under Zhang Laoshi there isn't a single one who knows what sportsmanship is. Sneak attack. The duel has already begun. Anyone can make a move, so why would you call it sneak attack? I wouldn't mind even if you were to attack me. Ignoring the other party's chatter, Yuan Tao flung his sleeves, and with the disposition of an expert, he stared down at Kong Jia in disdain. He should blame himself for being weak. To be unable to even sustain a single hit of mine, how brittle can he be? Weak? No matter how strong one is, it is impossible for anyone to stand against such a sneak attack. To speak of sneak attacks so righteously, how can you be so shameless? Hearing his brazen words, the spectators' mouths twitched. If other people were to win by sneak attack, they would be guilt-ridden. Yet, this fellow spoke of it so brazenly, as though it was the natural thing to do. The heck? Where's your dignity? Teacher, does this mean that it's my victory? With his hands behind his back, Yuan Tao turned to look at the refereeing teacher. That it's your victory. The teacher turned to glance at Kong Jia, and judging from his state, it was unlikely that he could regain consciousness soon. Thus, he could only nod his head to Yuan Tao's words. After refereeing the freshman tournament for numerous years, this was the first time he met with such a matter. If one were to accuse Yuan Tao of sneak attack, the duel had already begun. In a sense, it is Kong Jia's fault for being distracted, so he can't blame another person for his loss. Yet, it is clearly not an ordinary battle. Seeing his first student being struck out of the dueling ring the moment he got up, giving away the victory that should have been his, Lu Sun nearly choked on his anger. He had spent an entire 3 million to purchase pills. Then, he spent an entire night, expending his Jinqi to help them achieve a breakthrough to Jinqi realm, but what did he receive? At the very least, you should have at least lasted for a while against the other party. If you can't match up to him, I would have just accepted it. Yet, without even making the slightest move, you were sent flying out of the ring. Lu Sun grabbed at his chest and he felt his vision going gray. If not for his self-control, his body would have been convulsing now. Lu Laoshi, we've lost the first round. What should we do next? Zhu Hong asked worriedly. Mo Xiao, you're up next. Ignoring the constricted sensation in his heart, Lu Sun said. Yes. Mo Xiao nodded his head. Wielding his spear, he walked forward. Zheng Yang, you're up. After seeing who the other party sent out, Zhang Xian said. Zheng Yang nodded his head. Wielding a spear in his hands as well, he walked into the ring. The two friends were to face one another in the ring once more. Glancing at the returning Yuan Tao, Zhang Xian nodded his head in approval. It wasn't that he was approving Yuan Tao's sneak attack, just that Yuan Tao was a Jushi realm advanced stage whereas his opponent was a Jinqi realm cultivator. The difference between them exceeded more than a single realm. No matter how powerful Yuan Tao's defensive and offensive abilities are, if he can't land a blow on the other party, it would just be talk. Yuan Tao knew that his speed was his weakness, thus he put on an act before attacking his enemy. Honestly speaking, Kong Jia couldn't blame his carelessness on anyone else. It's Mo Xiao. It will surely be a victory this round. Suppressing the disappointment from the first match downward, Wang Chao's eyes lit up upon seeing Mo Xiao stepping onto the stage. Upon seeing the other party's confident declaration, Elder Hong Hao turned to look at Wang Chao with a peculiar expression. Mo Xiao specializes in spear art and he was once my student. Wang Chao nodded his head. On top of being a Jinqi realm cultivator, his comprehension of spearmanship is impressive. More importantly, I have imparted the Wang clan's spearmanship 3rd form, 7th form, and 18th form to him. Onset of the cold gleam, remnants of the setting sun, and the returning forest canary? Disbelief flashed through Elder Hong Hao's eyes. Even though these 3 moves aren't the strongest moves in Wang clan's spearmanship, they are nevertheless profound techniques and possess boundless might. You imparted such valuable spear techniques to him. The Wang clan's spearmanship is known as the greatest secret spear art in Qian Kingdom, and there isn't a single spear user who doesn't wish to learn it. However, Wang Chong and Wang Chao never imparted these moves to any outsider. This is precisely the reason why the set of spear technique is becoming more and more valuable. Countless people are willing to do anything to lay their hands on it. Usually, learning a single move can mean that one will be invincible among peers of the same cultivation level. Yet, Mo Xiao had learned 3 moves at a single go, and furthermore, they are the more advanced moves. Indeed. That's the reason why Mo Xiao will definitely win. Not only did confidence reappear on Wang Chao's face, it even deepened as he spoke of Mo Xiao. It seemed as though the slight hiccup before doesn't affect the situation at all. However, it isn't a surprise either. Kong Jia isn't his student. While Wang Chao knew that he isn't weak, he isn't too clear of his personality whatsoever. But Mo Xiao is different. Having been under him, Wang Chao knows that Mo Xiao is resilient and headstrong. It is almost impossible for Zheng Yang to win through a sneak attack. More importantly, the latter had received this personal guidance and his spearmanship has reached great heights. It would be difficult for him to lose even if he wants to. Wang Chao had also seen Zheng Yang's abilities when he visited him on the first day of school alongside Mo Xiao. His spear was feeble and it didn't hold the sharp disposition that a spear user should have. Thus, he rejected him from his tutelage. In just half a month, it is impossible for a person like this to grow much stronger. As such, it is impossible for Zheng Yang to match up to Mo Xiao. A month with the stave, a year with the saber, and a lifetime with the spear. If one could improve their spearmanship so swiftly, the Wang clan wouldn't be proclaimed as the #1 spear clan in Tianxian Kingdom. Clearly, Lu Sun was aware of the fact as well, that's why he sent Mo Xiao up. He hoped for him to achieve a perfect victory and reverse the situation. Mo Xiao, we've met again. On the dueling platform, Zheng Yang placed his spear taut on the ground, with its tip facing the sky. Indeed, we've met again. Mo Xiao nodded his head, lifting his spear up as well. From young, the two of them had been good buddies. It was hard to imagine that they would meet on a dueling platform under such a situation. Let's start. Knowing that it would be difficult for his friend to make the first move, Zheng Yang said. Hold it for a moment, allow me to warm up first. Mo Xiao shook his head. Retreating a few steps backward, the Jinqi in his body flurried and he executed the 3 moves which he had learned from Wang Chao smoothly. Woo woo woo. The spear emitted shock waves in all directions, causing the spectators' hair to fly about. What is that fellow doing? If he displays the 3 spear art now, isn't he telling the other party that he knows the Wang clan spearmanship? How will he fight if the other party is guarded against those 3 moves of his? Seeing how Mo Xiao didn't dive straight into the battle and instead display his spear art to warm up, Elder Hong Hao was perplexed. If one shows his trump cards before the battle, won't the other party be guarded against it? Hee, rest easy. Wang Chong chuckled. With a confident and proud look, he said, it is impossible for the Wang clan's spearmanship to be countered. These moves have long been out spreading all these years. Many people had attempted to imitate them, but no one succeeded in deciphering and countering them. Mo Xiao's actions are right, he is intentionally allowing the other party to see it so as to exert pressure on him. Afterward, he will bring the fame of the Wang clan's spearmanship to greater heights. That's perhaps so. Elder Hong Hao nodded his head. The Wang clan's spearmanship movements have been spread for many years, but without learning the underlying Jinqi circulation method, it is impossible to execute the move no matter how lifelike one's imitation is. More importantly, there isn't a counter for it. If it could be countered, Wang Chong wouldn't be that famous. On the dueling ring, Mo Xiao executed the 3 Wang clan spearmanship moves perfectly and thus concluded his warm-up. Alright, he is probably going to show the prowess of the Wang clan's spearmanship now. Wang Chao chuckled once more. He was about to compliment Mo Xiao further and watch Xin Yang being beaten to a pulp when, dang lang, he saw Mo Xiao drop the spear in his hands onto the ground suddenly as he sighed. Even though I have reached Jinqi realm, I am unable to match that spear of yours. I admit defeat. What? Wang Chao's body shook. The fight hasn't even started. Why are you admitting defeat? Even if one has to admit defeat, it should be the opponent. The heck, what's going on? Lu Sun, who stood on the opposite, staggered as well. He was on the verge of tears. Chapter 216, exerting too much force for Lu Sun to have risen up through the ranks, his talents and skills weren't the only determining factors. More importantly was his attitude. Regardless of the challenges that he faces, he deals with them in a calm manner, not allowing pride to get in his way. Even though Zhang Xian's reputation is terrible, Lu Sun didn't underestimate him at all and made preparations in advance. Before deciding on the students to send for the duel, he investigated Zhang Xian's students in order to pick out the best combination to deal with and counter them. Based on his investigation, Zhen Yang grew up with Mo Xiao and they practiced the spear together. However, the Mo Xiao's talents are obviously superior to Zhen Yang, and of the countless battle between the two, it had always been Mo Xiao's victory. This was precisely the reason why he poached Mo Xiao from his best friend, even having his friend impart him the Wang clan's spearmanship. He thought that this way, this battle would surely be his for the taking, but before the battle even started, Mo Xiao had already thrown aside his spear and admitted defeat. Lu Sun felt his entire body tremble and he was about to go crazy. Kong Jia fell for the other party's deception and got knocked out in a single punch. Alright, I'll tolerate it. At most, just 600,000 of my gold coins went to waste. But what is going on with you? I've seen many darn people, but I've never seen such a darn person. You clearly know the reason why I stayed up so late, just to help raise your strength, is to achieve victory in the teacher evaluation. Furthermore, I had spent so much money on you, yet you admitted defeat even before the fight. What's going on? Two Jinqi realm students, the first one was sent flying by a single punch while the second one admitted defeat without a fight? What is going on? Wang Chao and Lu Sun weren't the only ones who were in bewilderment over the happenings, the spectating students and teachers were baffled as well. When they saw Lu Laoshi bring a group of Jinqi realm students over, all of them thought that it would be a one-sided match. Yet the matches became truly one-sided but sided toward the other party. Actually, the crowd wasn't the only confused ones. Even the person in question, Zhang Xian, was unable to comprehend what was happening as well. When Mo Xiao and Zhen Yang crossed blows with one another in the classroom, Zhang Xian was at Master Lu Chen's home, so he wasn't aware of it. Thus, he couldn't understand why Mo Xiao would admit defeat before the fight even started. The reason why I admitted defeat is that, a few days ago, the both of us participated in a private duel. With just a single move, Zhen Yang was able to defeat me. In fact, it wouldn't have been difficult for him to claim my life then. Before Zhaoye and the others could tell Zhang Xian about the situation, Mo Xiao's voice suddenly rang from the stage. His voice was calm, and the slightest dismay or regret couldn't be heard. Rather, it sounded carefree. I had been pondering over the last few days on how I should counter his move. Initially, I thought that with a breakthrough to Jinqi realm, I might be able to neutralize the technique. Thus, I tried it just now but realized that I still am not a match for him. The move which Xin Yang had learned from Zhang Laoshi points straight toward the essence of the spear, and I'm afraid that even if I were to study it for my entire life, I still wouldn't be able to understand it, needless to say, withstand it. Since I know that I will be defeated with a single move, I might as well admit my defeat right away. At this, Mo Xiao clasped his fists and chuckled softly, Zhen Yang, you have a good teacher. You have to treasure him dearly. At which, Mo Xiao picked up his spear, turned around, and returned back to his seat. His voice echoed throughout the field and almost everyone heard his words clearly. Mo Xiao said that he wouldn't be able to decipher and counter the move which Zhang Laoshe imparted Zheng Yang even if he were to devote his entire life to it. That's to say, his move is superior to even that of the Wang clan's spearmanship. How is that possible? Since this is a duel, it is unlikely for him to lie, otherwise, won't Lu Laoshe beat him to death? Everyone's eyes widened in shock. The Wang clan's spearmanship is simply too famous in Tianxian Kingdom. Many people are able to recognize it simply by looking at the moves. It is an indomitable existence in its field, representing the pinnacle of spear arts. Yet, Mo Xiao said that he isn't a match for the other party. Everyone was astounded. Looks like Zhang Xian Laoshe isn't as weak as the rumors put him out to be. On the contrary, it seems that he is a person of great means. Indeed, out of a total of 5 matches, he has won 2 of them consecutively. Will Lu Laoshe really lose here? Who knows? But I hope that Lu Laoshe will be able to make a comeback. Voices in heated discussions filled the surroundings. Lu Sun, who was on stage, was breathing heavily and his face was turning green. The heck, what is wrong with these students whom I have taught? No student should ever do their teacher in like that. Furthermore, what do you mean with your words? Zheng Yang has a good teacher. Do you not have a good teacher as well? I spent 3 million to buy pills for you, students, exerting my jinqi to help raise your cultivations. Yet this is all I get. Even though Lu Sun was infuriated, he knew that it wasn't the time to lash out. The moment he loses his temper, the prestige which he had built up over the years would immediately crumble. He scanned the students before him. There were still 3 of his students who had yet to fight yet. Bai Chao, Du Lei, and Zhu Hong. Bai Chao specializes in fist techniques, making him a tough opponent for Lu Yang, who had damaged his meridians in his right arm. Du Lei possesses impressive leg techniques. On top of that, Lu Sun had also imparted a formidable movement technique to him, granting him nimble movements, so it shouldn't be a problem for him to deal with Wang Ying, whose legs are injured. As for Zhu Hong, he will be facing Zhao Ye. After losing 2 rounds consecutively, Lu Sun has to win the next one. Otherwise, his reputation will be tarnished completely. Du Lei, you go up next. After contemplating for a moment, he decided to dispatch Du Lei. Based on his investigations, Wang Ying has a weak and gentle character. As long as Du Lei assaults her swiftly the moment the match starts, the latter will definitely be intimidated. Besides, the other party's legs had just recovered and they are still weak. Even if Du Lei were to be unable to win against her, he should be able to stand his own ground and rely on his movement technique to avert danger. At the very least, he will not suffer crushing defeats like the 2 before. Du Lei nodded his head and walked up to the dueling ring. Wang Ying. Seeing the other party had sent Du Lei, Zhang Xian gestured for his own student to face her opponent. Wang Ying answered. With a slightly flushed face, she walked to the ring as well. By the spectator stand. As expected of Lu Laoshe. Even though he has lost 2 rounds consecutively, he has seen through Zhang Xian's weakness. Shen Bairu's eyebrows were deeply knitted together in worry. Weakness? What weakness? Han Qiong was perplexed. Wang Ying is the sole daughter of the clan head Wang Hong of the 4 great clans. She has a weak and innocent nature, and as such, trusts others too easily. Of Zhang Xian Laoshe's 5 students, she is the weakest link. Shen Bairu said. If that's really the case, then she is indeed Zhang Xian's weakness. Han Qiong nodded her head in agreement. To cultivate is to go against the heavens. Those who possess weak characters tend to be at a disadvantage when fighting with others. Not just so, Wang Ying was also injured when she was younger, leaving a disability in her legs. Even though she has no problem walking around, this flaw will show through the moment she fights. For this matter, clan head Wang Hong had invited numerous famous physicians in the kingdom to treat her. Even Master Yuan had taken a look at her condition, but he was also at a loss on how to help her, having to return bitterly. Shen Bairu knew quite a bit of Wang Ying's matter, and she recounted them to Han Qiong. That's to say, with Wang Ying's legs, it is impossible for her to match up to Du Lei. Ah! Han Qiong was astonished. She hadn't expected it to be such a situation. As for this Du Lei, he was once Chen Honglao's student. Chen Honglaoshi? The teacher who specializes in movement technique? Him. Of all of his students, Du Lei possesses the greatest speed. Using such a person to deal with Wang Ying, it is clear that Lu Laoshi had done his homework. Shen Bairu shook his head. Seems like Wang Ying will lose. Please do guide me. On the stage, Wang Ying clasped her hands with a slightly reddened face. I don't dare to claim to be able to guide you. If you wish to fight, let's start now. Knowing that he shoulders a heavy responsibility, Du Lei's feet pushed against the ground, and lowering his body, he charged straight toward Wang Ying. His movements were quick, as though a whizzing arrow. Fast. Is he really a fighter 3 Dan cultivator? Even a fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm cultivator wouldn't possess a speed of his level. This move is called Illusory Shadows and 9 Celestial Steps. It is a famous technique belonging to Lu Laoshi. To think that Lu Laoshi would generously impart this move to his student. Illusory Shadows 9 Celestial Steps. The greatest secret manual on movement techniques in Hongtian Academy? Isn't it considered one of the top techniques in Tianxian Kingdom? That's right. If I could learn this move, I would definitely be able to reign supreme among those of the same cultivation level. This Wang Ying is probably in for a tough fight. Many students had recognized Du Lei's technique and they were astounded. The Illusory Shadows 9 Celestial Steps is a formidable technique, even when compared to the other profound movement techniques. Lu Laoshi had once relied on this movement technique to defeat numerous experts. No one had imagined that he would impart it to Du Lei. Even though Du Lei had only learned the fundamentals, this in itself is sufficient for him to defeat cultivators of the same realm. Not to mention, Wang Ying's legs are injured and her cultivation is only at Dantian realm. Facing Du Lei's swift charge, Wang Ying gritted her silver teeth, twisted, and dodged his assault. Hee, you might be able to evade my first attack, but how much more can you evade? Realizing that she had managed to dodge his rapid charge successfully, Du Lei felt perplexed. However, he paid no further heed and sneered coldly. Driving the Zhenqi in his body furiously, his speed grew faster and faster, and soon, blurred shadows started to appear around the ring. At the highest level, the Illusory Shadows 9 Celestial Steps allows one to create 9 shadow clones. It is difficult for one to differentiate between the shadow clones and the true person, making it nigh impossible to evade its attacks. Even though Du Lei was still far from producing 9 shadow clones, now operating at his full strength, the afterimages he produced nevertheless made it difficult to discern his true position. Way too strong. Such amazing speed, I can't even see him. How can one fight against something like that? The mouths of the students twitched. Imagining themselves in Wang Ying's shoes, they could not help but shake their heads. Based on their level of strength, they weren't even able to see him. If so, how could they fight him? Seems like it's Du Lei's victory. Wang Chao laughed heartily. After having his face slapped for 2 consecutive times, he had already been traumatized within. But observing at Du Lei, he hadn't gotten deceived like Kong Jia, getting knocked out in an instant, and neither did he admit his defeat the moment he walks onto the stage. This made him feel reassured. It would be embarrassing if a Zhenqi realm cultivator loses against a Dantian realm little girl whose legs are injured. Indeed, given his incredible speed, even I myself would find it hard to defeat him if I were to lower my cultivation realm to fight with him. Needless to say, that young lass. Elder Hong Hao stroked his beard and smiled. Look, that Wang Ying is going to make a move. Wang Chao glanced over and saw Wang Ying lift her right leg. Hesitation was obvious on her face, and she seemed to be uncertain on how she should attack. To deal with such a movement technique, one should rely on their hands instead. After all, one's hands are much more nimble than one's legs. Her legs are injured, and yet she still insists on using them. Such a fool, it would be a miracle if she can successfully land a kick on him. Sneering coldly, Chao was in the midst of mocking Wang Ying when he saw the girl send a kicking toward a shadow before her. Pang! Before the ridiculing smile could fully form on his face, Chao saw the afterimages come to an abrupt halt. Du Lei's face reddened and he was sent flying a dozen meters, landing heavily onto the ground. He coughed mouthful after mouthful of blood. Du Lei, I'm sorry. I tried my best to control my strength, but I still ended up exerting too much force by mistake. Wang Ying panicked and she hurriedly apologized. Her face was flushed red and it seemed that she was on the verge of tears. Chapter 217, It's a Draw. Silence. The entire place turned silent. Everyone's mouth was widened in astonishment, all of them dumbfounded. Shen Bairu, who just claimed that Wang Ying would lose, felt as though she had been slapped hard in her face. Her deep, black eyes were about to pop out from their sockets. A single kick and she sent Du Lei flying? How did she know which were shadow clones, and which was the real one? Given Du Lei's speed, even expert cultivators of the same realm would find it hard to discern the real person. Yet, a casual kick from Wang Ying sent him flying a distance, as though she was simply kicking a mere human bound in a sack. Not only does she have to differentiate between the shadow clones and the true person, the speed of her kick must be that much faster than Du Lei. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to injure him if her attacks are unable to keep up with him. Han Xiong's face turned grim. It appears that not only has Wang Ying's injury recovered, she had also learned an incredible leg technique and movement technique. Indeed. Shen Bairu also recovered from her shock. This wasn't just a matter of seeing through the enemy's movement technique. Without suitable battle techniques in complement, how could she have sent him flying that easily? Wang Chao grabbed his hair. He had just insulted the other party as a fool, and the next moment, she sent Du Lei flying with a kick. Wang Chao felt as though he had been toyed with. Just beside him, Elder Hong Hao looked as though he had been given a tight slap as well and he was on the verge of tears. Initially, he was here to see Zhang Xian get humiliated in public. Yet, somehow, he ended up watching how Zhang Xian's reputation grew increasingly brilliant and Lu Xun getting beaten so terribly instead. Cough cough cough. On the side of the dueling ring, Lu Xun choked on his saliva and nearly fell to the ground. Elder Hong Hao was on the verge of tears, but Lu Xun was already crying. What exactly is going on? That is the illusory shadow's 9 celestial steps, and there was no mistake in Du Lei's execution at all. Even though Du Lei is still a way off from reaching his level of mastery, to be able to display this kind of mastery at Jinqi realm, he can already be considered as a genius. Such amazing execution of a formidable movement technique, and yet Du Lei was sent flying with a single kick? More importantly, the girl on the stage had reddened eyes, and she kept apologizing, saying that she had accidentally used too much force, your head. So the reason why you were hesitating wasn't that you were at a loss, but you were considering how to avoid wounding the other party heavily? If holding back your strength sent the other party flying a dozen meters, wouldn't he be killed if you had used your full strength? The spectators all went hysterical. On the stage, Du Lei finally struggled to his feet. Looking at the apologetic girl before him, he couldn't take the mental blow and spurted another mouthful of blood. Are you alright? I really didn't do it intentionally, I just learned the battle technique, so I can't control my strength well and used too much force. Wang Ying's eyes turned red. Used too much strength, your head. Roaring, Du Lei charged toward Wang Ying. He was truly enraged. It is one thing if you had sent me flying with a single kick, but apologizing? Are you trying to humiliate me? Furthermore, she kept emphasizing that she had used too much force. Do you think that I am too fragile, not worthy of facing you at your full strength? Ah. Wang Ying didn't expect that her sincere apology would result in the other party charging toward her. She was frightened pale. Even though her cultivation is higher than Zheng Yang and Lu Yang, she doesn't have much battle experience. Not to mention, she has an excessively kind nature. Seeing the other party charge toward her, she naturally became terrified. In a moment of panic, she retreated thoughtlessly. Who? Magically, within the blink of an eye, she was already a dozen meters away. What? Traveling a dozen meters in the blink of an eye. Well, what is that movement technique? Too fast. How can this be possible? Upon witnessing the maneuver, the crowd turned silent abruptly for a brief moment before bursting into an uproar. Everyone had considered the illusory shadow's 9 celestial step to be already one of the most formidable movement technique. Yet, to think that Wang Ying's technique would be even more fearsome. To travel more than a dozen meters in less than half a breath, the entire event felt like a supernatural occurrence. Even Pishue realm experts are incapable of such speed. How did she do it? It is impossible for the Wang clan to possess such a movement technique. If they had it, they would have long become famous, indeed. But if it isn't the Wang clan, from whom did she learn the technique? It must be Zhang Laoshe. Didn't Zheng Yang's formidable spear art come from Zhang Laoshe as well? To impart such an incredible movement technique so readily? If that's true, I want to withdraw from my tutelage and come under Zhang Laoshe. Count me in as well. The eyes of the spectators burned with passion. Spear art is a specialized art, and not everyone is interested in it. However, movement techniques are different. This can serve as a mean of survival, as well as a trump card. If one can master it, even when facing an expert far superior to them, he will at least have the ability to flee unharmed. Who wouldn't want to learn such a powerful and handy battle technique? I will defeat you. Seeing Wang Ying travel a dozen meters in the blink of an eye, Du Lei felt faint. However, rage had already overtaken his rationality and without any care, he charged forward once more. Seeing the other party's savage expression, as well as the crimson blood flowing down the ends of his lips, Wang Ying felt terrified. Her legs pushed against the ground and she fled once more. Just like that, one chased while one fled. Seems that her character is simply too weak. I will have polish up her personality in the future. Taking in the sight before him, Zhang Qian shook his head. If met with this situation, putting Zheng Yang, Lu Yang, and Yuan Tao aside, even Zhao Ye would have immediately sent Du Lei flying. Even if he didn't die, he would find to stand up once more. But Wang Ying, on the other hand, fled from him. It was due to her weak personality which led to such a situation. It seems that her greatest flaw isn't her cultivation or her battle technique, but her battle experience. Heaven's Path movement art saps one's stamina greatly. It might be okay to execute it once or twice, but any more than that would be difficult. Heaven's Path movement art allows one to move at amazing speeds and travel a dozen meters in the blink of an eye. Even so, it has its own flaws. That is, it exerts greatly on one's stamina. Wang Ying might be able to escape like this once or twice, but she will eventually be caught by the enemy if this goes on. And as Zhang Qian expected, Wang Ying started sweating profusely and panting heavily, unable to move anymore. At this moment, she had also been forced to the corner of the ring by the other party. Voila! Du Lei ran forward and grabbed her arm. Even if I can't win, I won't allow you to win. Roaring, he leaped forward, pulling her along with him. You, not expecting that the other party would resort to such tricks, forcefully pulling her out of the ring, Wang Ying panicked and sent another kick toward him. Who? As though a rubber ball, Du Lei was immediately sent flying. In the midair, he was unable to keep his balance and flipped several turns before landing at a distance 30 meters away. Putong. However, right after kicking the other party, Wang Ying, having drained the final bit of stamina she had left, fell from the dueling ring as well. Both parties had fallen from the dueling ring and landed on the ground at nearly the same moment. As such, the conclusion was a draw. Du Lei knew that he would be unable to defeat Wang Ying in a straightforward battle. As such, he charged forward ferociously, pulling her down with him. However, Wang Ying's counterattack was also fearsome. Having sent the other party flying 30 meters away, even if Du Lei doesn't die, he would be confined to his bed for at least 2 months. This is cheating. Too shameless, he obviously isn't a match for her, yet he tried to pull the other party down to the ground. He deserves that kick, how can one be so shameless? He's even worse than Yuan Tao. A commotion broke out beneath the stage. Everyone could tell that Du Lei's action was no different from shameless cheating. While the teachers' reputations are at stake, the teacher evaluation is actually just a friendly spar between students. It was clear that his movement technique and leg technique were inferior to the other party, yet he forcefully used his superior strength, as a male, to drag the other party down with him. In their eyes, it was an exceedingly shameless action. Thus, everyone thought that he deserved to be sent flying. There wasn't a single person who felt sympathy for him. Hearing those curses, Yuan Tao became speechless. He hadn't said anything, so why did he suddenly get targeted as well? Who are you saying is shameless? You're the one who is shameless, your entire family is shameless. Both landed on the ground at the same time. Draw. Hearing the arguments, the refereeing teacher began to feel a headache. Even so, he nodded his head and announced his verdict. Even though Du Lei's actions lacked sportsmanship, it was true that the both parties had landed at the same time, so the match could only be considered as a draw. Teacher, upon hearing the conclusion, Wang Ying turned to look at Zhang Xian with an apologetic look. Zhang Laoshi had given her so much, treating her legs and imparting her a leg technique and movement technique. Yet she wasn't able to defeat her opponent and bring honor to Zhang Laoshi. She felt as though she had disappointed him. Don't worry, just take note of this in the future. Don't let it bother you. Zhang Xian nodded his head. It is negligence on my part as well. What you're lacking isn't your cultivation or your battle techniques, it is your character. Thank you, teacher. Seeing that Zhang Laoshi didn't blame her, and on the contrary, he even consoled her, Wang Ying felt even more embarrassed. However, the result couldn't be changed, so she could only walk gloomily over to the other students. If Du Lei saw her expression, he would have gone insane immediately. Your kick caused me to be groaning in pain here, unable to move at all, yet you are feeling depressed. The one who should be depressed is me. Zhang Laoshi won 2 consecutive rounds and achieved a draw for 1. It is already impossible for him to lose the teacher evaluation anymore. Indeed. Even if Lu Laoshi wins the next 2 rounds, it would only result in a draw. Let's see how things unfold. I don't think that Lu Laoshi's students stand a good chance against the other remaining students of Zhang Laoshi. I think so too. Initially, I thought that Zhang Laoshi would suffer a crushing defeat. Yet, to think that Lu Laoshi would be the one under pressure. What is going on? Even though they felt that Du Lei's actions were too shameless, they quickly accepted and got over that fact. This was how the rules were. Even though it seemed unfair, there was nothing they could do about it. But here comes the problem. Of the 5 duels, Zhang Laoshi had achieved 2 wins and 1 draw, so all of the pressure is now on Lu Laoshi. If Lu Laoshi were to lose the next match, there would be no need for the 5th one. On the other hand, if Lu Laoshi were to win the remaining 2, it would be a draw for the teacher evaluation. This would be the best possible conclusion, given how both sides would retain their dignity. Upon thinking so, the crowd focused their gazes on Lu Sun immediately, interested to see who he would send out next. I can't lose anymore. I started this teacher evaluation to display my skills, and if I were to lose another round, I will be too embarrassed to meet anyone in the future. Lu Sun gritted his teeth. Since the crowd was able to comprehend the current situation, it was natural that Lu Sun would understand it as well. If he were to lose, not only would he lose the reputation that he had painstakingly built up, he might even become a laughingstock. Zhu Hong had once lost to Zhao Ye. Even though his cultivation has improved, he might still hold a trauma over that event. If I were to send him out, I can't guarantee his victory. I should have Bai Chao go up. He specializes in fist techniques and it shouldn't be a problem for him to deal with Lu Yang. Making up his mind, Lu Sun beckoned. Bai Chao stood out from the crowd and took big steps to the dueling ring. It's my turn. Upon seeing Bai Chao walk up to the stage, Lu Yang chuckled softly. Before Zhang Qian could say anything, he had already stepped into the ring to face his opponent. Chapter 218, Exchanging Fists at the VIP seats. Wang Chao and Elder Hong Hao gazed at each other. Bai Chao specializes in fist technique. Lu Yang shouldn't be an opponent for him. Wang Chao hesitated. Even though he said such words, he clearly wasn't confident. In the previous few matches, he had declared haughtily that Lu Sun's students would win, but in the end all of them lost tragically. This Bai Chao, based on Wang Chao's understanding, should be able to win easily, but Zhang Xian's students were simply unfathomable. All of his previous predictions had fallen through, and he had lost all his confidence. I think so too. He should be able to win. Elder Hong Hao was dispirited as well. He wanted to witness this Zhang Laoshi being humiliated in public and lose all of his dignity. Yet, from the looks of it, it is impossible to humiliate him anymore. At this moment, all he can do is to try his best to preserve his own dignity. Bai Chao, don't hesitate at all. Once the match starts, use your strongest fist technique. Don't give the other party any gaps to exploit. Gritting his teeth, Wang Chao shouted to Bai Chao. There is no room to retreat now. If this match were to end in a loss, there wouldn't be a final match. Thus, all they can do now is to entrust all of their hopes and expectations to Bai Chao and hope that he will not let them down. Bai Chao specializes in fist techniques, and it would be best for him to execute his strongest technique from the start and defeat his opponent swiftly. Otherwise, while he enters with huge expectations, he will leave with utmost disappointment and his good buddy will lose all chance to impress the three master teachers and become one of their disciples. Bai Chao nodded his head and stared at Lu Yang with narrowed eyes. He had seen the happenings of the previous duels clearly. He understood that even though Zhang Laoshi's students didn't possess high cultivation, none of them was weak. He mustn't show the slightest hesitation. Otherwise, history would just repeat itself. Clan head Wang Hong, do you think that Bai Chao can win? On the spectator stand, clan head Bai Ming glanced at Wang Hong. As the heads of powerful clans and as Tongxian realm experts, their words were authoritative. I don't think so. Zhang Laoshi has already achieved 2 wins and 1 draw, and this should affect the Bai Chao's morale greatly. As long as Lu Yang doesn't fare badly, it is unlikely for him to win. Wang Hong shook his head. The teacher evaluation was already more than halfway through and all along, Lu Laoshi's students had been suffering from crushing defeats. It wouldn't be easy for him to rebound and achieve victory. Besides, his very own daughter was under Zhang Laoshi's tutelage and thus, he understood how fearsome the theories Zhang Xian taught were. Otherwise, how could that airhead daughter of his have easily sent the fighter 3 Dan Dulei flying with a kick? If even her could become so formidable, it would be impossible for Lu Yang to be weak. My view differs from yours. Bai Ming said with a sharp glint in his eyes. Oh. Wang Hong looked over curiously. This Bai Chao is a member of my Bai clan. However, he is from a distant branch family, so I had never really heard of him. I've had a few of my clan members look into him just a moment ago, and it turns out that he practices the steel armor art. Even though he was the one speaking, a tinge of disbelief could still be heard in clan head Bai Ming's voice. Steel armor art? Could it be? For a moment, clan head Wang Hong was puzzled. Then, his eyes suddenly narrowed. Could it be that cultivation technique which the steel armor elder practices? Isn't it a lost art? Why does your clan member know of it? Very few people knew of the steel armor art, but the steel armor elder was a famous figure, such that even many of the younger generation had heard of him. He was a famous bandit from 70 years ago. From pillaging to slaughter, there was no evil which he hadn't commit. Furthermore, he was one of the top-ranking experts in Tianxian Kingdom throughout all of its history, and even today, his name still strikes fear in hearts. Due to his arrogant ways, both the royal palace and the commoners had tried repeatedly to bring him down. However, all of these attempts ended in failure. It could be said that those who had gone after him never returned back. Finally, there was an occasion when his whereabouts were discovered and a dozen experts trapped him in a valley. Knowing of his incredible prowess, none of them approached him. Rather, they made use of bows to attack him from afar. Yet, they realized with a shock that there was a layer reminiscent of animal scales on his skin surface, causing all of the arrows they shot to simply bounce off him. That is to say, the arrows were unable to deal any damage to him. Left with no choice, they could only charge forth to deal with him in close quarters. However, the layer of scales on his body seemed to be impenetrable, even swords and sabers were unable to get through it. That battle created a river of blood, and the skies seemed to have darkened in grief. Eventually, even though justice triumphed, more than 30 Tongxian realm experts fell that day. This caused Tianxian Kingdom's national might to fall markedly, and it took them many decades to recover from that blow. According to rumors, the technique which allowed the steel armor elder to generate scales all over his body was known as the steel armor art. But 70 years ago, when the steel armor elder died, the art should have been lost along with him. Thus, Wang Hong was perplexed over how Bai Chao managed to learn the art. It is true that the steel armor art had been lost, and the technique which Bai Chao cultivated isn't the authentic steel armor art. Bai Chao said calmly. Then, clan head Wang Hong blinked. After cultivating the steel armor art, scales will appear all over one's body, providing one with invincible defense. On the other hand, Bai Chao's technique limits the scales to only his fist. That is to say, when he activates this cultivation technique, his fist will become as tough as steel, making it no different from a weapon. Clan head Bai Ming spoke of all he knew and explained the reason why he thought Bai Chao would win. Lu Yang's right arm is injured, and this fellow's offensive ability, in terms of his fist, is invincible. Furthermore, his strength is significantly higher than that of Lu Yang. How can Lu Yang win under such circumstances? This if the technique Bai Chao cultivates is really the steel armor art, then it will be truly difficult for Lu Yang to win. Clan head Wang Hong's complexion darkened. Those who know of this dark piece of history and how powerful the steel armor elder was would know how fearsome the steel armor art is. This art surpasses the very limits of a human, granting one the strength and defensive ability of a savage beast. Putting aside the fact that Lu Yang is injured, even if he isn't, how is it possible for him to withstand attacks of that level? Actually, as long as Lu Yang isn't foolish so as to cross fists with him and instead, skirt around his opponent, he might not lose that badly. After contemplating for a moment, clan head Wang Hong said. Even though the other party's fists are incredible, he has his own flaws as well. His defensive and offensive ability in other regions are weak. If so, as long as Lu Yang doesn't face off with him directly and skirts around the opponent, sending in blows on the opponent's body from time to time, he might not necessarily lose. Let's just hope that's the case. I'm just worried that Lu Yang may not know of this and fall for Bai Chao's ploy. Clan head Bai Ming smiled bitterly. Even though Bai Chao is a member of his clan, he isn't really close to him. On the contrary, he hoped for Apothecary Zhang Xian's victory. This clan head Wang Hong was about to say something when he suddenly heard the conversation between the two young men in the dueling ring. Lu Yang, I know that the meridians of your right arm are damaged. However, just like Wang Ying, Zhang Laoshi should have treated it already, right? Bai Chao asked. Indeed, Zhang Laoshi managed to identify my problem and personally went to the Apothecary Guild to obtain a meridian rejuvenation pill for me. At this moment, my right arm has already fully recovered. Lu Yang nodded his head. His face clearly showed his reverence and pride for his teacher. Only a noble person like Zhang Laoshi will give so much for his students, even if he will receive little in return. Since your arm has already recovered, I have a proposal for you. Let's stop it with all the tricks and cross blows directly. Whoever fails to withstand the blow loses. Bai Chao sneered coldly. Don't tell me that you dare not to, unless your Zhang Laoshi failed to treat your arm at all, and all you've just said was still boasting. Let's cross blows then. Do you think that I'll be afraid of you? Hearing the other party doubt Zhang Laoshi, Lu Yang flew into a rage. That fool, watching his worries slowly becoming reality, that Lu Yang fell for Bai Chao's ploy, Wang Hong's complexion immediately turned awful. The other party practices the steel armor art, agreeing to exchange direct blows. Isn't that suicidal? Tell Zhang Laoshe that Bai Chao cultivates the steel armor art and that his fist is as hard as steel, and to not allow Lu Yang to cross blows with him no matter what. He hurriedly instructed a guard behind him. The guard nodded his head and hurried over to Zhang Qian, in order to inform him of the matter. Zhang Laoshe, I've heard of steel armor art. It is said to be the secret art which the steel armor elder practices. By soaking one's hands in the blood of a steel armor beast, as time goes by, one's hands become as hard as steel. However, this causes the hands to lose their flexibility and sense of touch. Zhao Ye seemed to know a lot about the steel armor art and explained to Zhang Qian. As hard as steel. What's the difference between doing that and wearing a steel gauntlet? Zhang Qian was speechless. Cultivation in itself is an evolution of life. The stronger one becomes, the stronger the opponents he would have to face, and the more nimble he has to be. Yet, this fellow forged his hands into steel, losing his sense of touch as a result. No matter how powerful the cultivation technique is, this is a fatal weakness. How perverted does one have to be in order to create such a warped cultivation technique? Zhang Laoshe, our clan head instructed me to tell you to stop Lu Yang from crossing blows with Bai Chao at all costs. Seeing how the two were still in the mood to discuss the steel armor art, the guard panicked and hurriedly interjected. Stop him from crossing blows with Bai Chao. Why? Zhang Qian asked, perplexed. I think it is good that Lu Yang agreed to it. No matter what, Bai Chao is a fighter 3 Dan cultivator, and with the augmentation from his Jinqi, regardless of whether it is his reaction speed or his agility, they are significantly superior to Lu Yang's. Even if he can't defeat Lu Yang, he can easily escape from his attacks. If it really ends up like this, the battle can potentially drag on for more than a day. Crossing blows like that can help to make up for Lu Yang's weaknesses, so why should I stop him? This was just like the battle between Yuan Tao and Kong Jie. It was an unchangeable fact that Lu Yang and the others possessed lower cultivation than their opponents. If their opponents were to choose to take evasive measures, they would truly be in a rut. Since Bai Chao had decided to go head-on with Lu Yang, there was no reason for Zhang Qian to disagree. The guard was about to go crazy. This isn't the problem, all right? Haven't I phrased it out clearly for you? The cultivation technique the other party cultivates is the steel armor art, that is a fist that rivals steel. It is impossible for Lu Yang to win in a direct confrontation of fists. He was about to persuade Zhang Qian when he glanced at the dueling platform and saw two figures moving about. The battle had already begun. It was already too late for Zhang Qian to interfere. Since you're agreeable to it, let's begin. Seeing that Lu Yang had fallen for his ploy, Bai Chao roared excitedly, stepped forward, and sent a fist toward him. Boom! The might of the fist compressed the air, causing a sonic boom. Just like the legends said, tiny scales could be seen on the surface of his fist, and the fist appeared to be the knuckle of a savage beast rather than a human's, emanating a bizarrely intimidating aura. It's good that you decided to face me head-on. Lu Yang raised his eyebrows and faced Bai Chao's strike with his own fist. He's doomed. He didn't expect that the guard he dispatched would fail to stop the spar between the two. Clan head Wang Hong's face paled and his body swayed from side to side. How can a human's fist match up to a savage beast's? Furthermore, Lu Yang's cultivation is far beneath that of Bai Chao's. Wang Hong sighed and shut his eyes, not wanting to see Lu Yang fracture his arm and fall tragically in defeat. But at that moment, he heard clan head Bai Ming's hastened breathing and his abrupt exclamation. This. Chapter 219, Do you dare to accept our challenge? Huh? Sensing that something was amiss, clan head Wang Hong quickly opened his eyes to take a look. With just a single glance, his body swayed and he nearly passed out. Isn't this way too exaggerated? On the dueling platform, Liu Yang's fist was raised and his face was impassive. On the other hand, Bai Chao, who possessed the fist of steel, was kneeling on the ground. Perspiration was streaming down his forehead. At this moment, his arm had been fractured, and his fingers were bent like twist breadsticks, as though they had encountered an indomitable force. Don't you cultivate the steel armor art? Why are you so weak? Retracting his fist, Liu Yang stared at Bai Chao in surprise. Because Xiao Ye was going to compete in the teacher evaluation, Yao Han took the liberty to look into their rivals beforehand and told him about this fellow's steel armor art and his ability to morph his fists into the claws of a savage beast. You knew? Bai Chao looked as though he had seen a ghost. He thought that the enemy had accepted his challenge due to his provocation, but it turned out that the other party already knew. It was him who was the foolish one who charged up to him knowing nothing at all. Of course I know. Liu Yang nodded his head. Then, with a bizarre expression, he asked, isn't your steel armor art an impressive skill that can punch through even steel? Why is it so weak? Weak? Bai Chao was on the verge of tears. I'm not the one who's weak, it's you who is strong, alright? It's true that I can punch through metal, but that's only half a CUN. Given the strength behind your fist, you can probably punch through 2 to 3 CUN easily. 1 CUN equals 3.33 centimeters, I get it. You didn't use your full strength, right? Come, let's trade blows once more. After contemplating for a moment, Liu Yang's eyes lit up. Even though he knew that the Heaven's Path fist art was no ordinary skill, he had no idea over how fearsome the technique truly was as he had been practicing it alone. Even when sparring with Zheng Yang and the rest, he dared not use his full strength for fear of injuring them. It isn't every day that he gets to meet with a fists expert, so how can he allow the opportunity to escape easily? Besides, he was still infuriated over how the other party tried to do him in. You wish to cripple me? Fine, I'll beat all of those thoughts out of you. No, I'll pass. Before Bai Chao could speak, he saw the young man before him clench his left fist and smash it into him. Kacha! His left hand fractured as well. Woo! Bai Chao began to have suicidal thoughts. Brother, only my right hand wields the strength of the steel armor art, my left hand is just an ordinary hand. Besides, I said that I'll pass. Why did you smash your fist into me? The excruciating pain caused his rage to flurry. Infuriated, he opened his mouth to curse the other party, but before he could say anything, the voice of the young man before him sounded once more. Ah, can it be possible that you have cultivated your steel armor art to your head as well? Come, let me give it a try. Pooh. Hearing those words, Bai Chao spurted out a mouthful of blood. A fracture can be healed, but if a hole were to be smashed into my brain, I will surely die for sure. I don't practice it with my head. Referee, I admit defeat, afraid that the fellow before him will really test out his theory on his head, Bai Chao immediately retreated, howling frenziedly in fear. If only his parents had given him an additional mouth, he would have surely shouted even louder, admit defeat? The refereeing teacher immediately stepped forward. Bai Chao hurriedly nodded his head. You've already lost 2 rounds. If you lose another, it will be equivalent to losing the entire teacher evaluation, the refereeing teacher said. I understand. I admit defeat, Bai Chao quickly shouted. A loss was much better than his death, all right. Hearing his words, the refereeing teacher knew the conclusion to the teacher evaluation. He could not help but shake his head before announcing, Bai Chao admits defeat. The teacher evaluation comes to an end and Zhang Xian Laosher is the victor. Zhang Laosher won. Incredible. Those students of his are truly incredible. Indeed. Other than Yuan Tao, every single one of them is amazingly powerful. Zheng Yang's spear art, Wang Ying's movement technique and leg technique, and Zheng Yang's fists, all of them are fearsome. Just like us, they are all freshmen. For them to be so powerful, it must be Zhang Laosher's guidance. After the tournament comes to an end, I will definitely acknowledge him as my teacher. wait for me, I'll go with you as well." Hearing the result announced by the refereeing teacher, the crowd broke out into a commotion. With Yao Han's hard work previously, Zhang Xian's reputation had gradually improved. Now witnessing the sight before them, every single of the students' faces were flushed with agitation. What is the purpose of coming to the academy? It is to find a good teacher. This Zhang Xian Laoshe had utterly crushed Lu Sun Laoshe right before their eyes. Just exactly how incredible are his teaching abilities? Many students had come to the same decision. And that is to come under this Zhang Laoshe's tutelage the moment the freshman tournament comes to an end. He won just like that. While the students felt excitement, on the spectators' stand, Shen Bairu blinked her eyes in disbelief. Ever since her entry into the academy, she had viewed Lu Sun as her goal, always contemplating how she can surpass him. Yet before she could succeed, a fellow who possesses poor reputation crushed him before her. This is Lu Sun. Furthermore, all of his students have reached Jinqi realm. Shen Bairu, you have truly good eyes. Right now, I am feeling a little interested in this Zhang Laoshe as well. A gleam flashed across Han Qiong's enchanting eyes. Mind your status, what do you mean by interested? Hearing the words of her bosom friend, Shen Bairu frowned. It's exactly as it means, I'm interested in him. Say, if I were to consult this Zhang Laoshe in the middle of the night, do you think he will open the doors to let me in? Han Qiong chuckled captivatingly. I think he will beat you death. Scolding her bosom friend shameless silently in her mind, Shen Bairu harumphed. Honestly speaking, she was at a loss for words for this bosom friend of hers. As a teacher, she could actually say such words. Consult? Why can't you consult in the morning, why does it have to be at night? Hee, I think that you are the one who will beat me to death if I do that. Han Qiong chuckled. Just like that, the two women continued bickering at the direct center of the spectator stand. Did you see that? Lu Ling glanced at the other two. Lu Sun's students seemed to treat this competition as a mere task. It doesn't matter to them whether they win or lose, it is all fine as long as they do not get injured. Zhuang Xian's eyes glowed with wisdom as he spoke of his conclusion. From this, we can conclude that the relationship between him and his students are only at the level of a deal. Even though he had helped the latter raise their abilities, in their view, it was only a mere equivalent trade. Indeed, his motives for raising the abilities of his students are impure, so naturally, he is unable to earn the affection of his students. Zheng Fei shook his head. Master teachers don't just look for talent and teaching standards in potential apprentices, they also pay close attention to the affection his students have for him. Even though they had yet to see Zhu Hang's performance, judging from Kong Jia, Mo Xiao, Du Lei, and by Chao's attitude, they were able to notice something amiss. As Lu Sun was too focused on results and winning the teacher evaluation, he had neglected the emotions of his students. It was true that such focus would raise their cultivation greatly within the shortest period of time, and Lu Sun did succeed in lifting his students to become Jinqi realm cultivators, but he failed to win their trust and respect. After all, who respects a person who treats them as a tool? Zhang Xian's students are different. They truly love him and they are willing to give their all for him. Lu Ling nodded his head in agreement to his two friends' judgments. Just through this competition alone, they might not have been able to see this much. However, the past few days of Peking had given them a deep insight into the relationship between Zhang Xian and his students. Zhao Ye, Wang Ying, and the others don't cultivate just for the sake of doing so or to raise their abilities, but for a common goal in their hearts. And that is to bring honor to Zhang Laoshe, to give him the prestige he deserves. They are doing this for the sake for their teacher, not for their own benefits. Even though on both sides, the students were cultivating and raising their abilities, one faction was thinking of accomplishing a task while the other was thinking of bringing honor to their teacher in order to make him proud of them. There was an insurmountable gap in their motivations. It is no wonder that he would catch Yang Shi's attention. This Zhang Laoshe is truly made to be a master teacher. It probably won't take long before he is of equal standing with us. Lu Ling commented in awe. Indeed. The other two also nodded their heads. Voila! The three were about to continue with their heartfelt sentiments when Lu Sun, who was located by the side of the dueling ring, stood up. After suffering a defeat at the teacher evaluation, he had two choices. He could apologize to Zhang Qian in public and compensate him according to the bet that they made beforehand. Otherwise, he could leave the academy once and for all. What do you think Lu Laoshi will choose? I don't know, but I think it is more likely for him to apologize. It is normal to lose. No one can guarantee that they can continue winning for their whole life. Indeed, losing isn't a big deal. If he were to really leave the academy, no matter how incredible of a star teacher he is now, he will fall into misfortune after losing his roots. The crowd spoke with hushed voices. It had been long since the last teacher evaluation. As the one who initiated it, Lu Sun suffered a crushing defeat. He must be feeling awful at the moment. Everyone wanted to see how he would choose. It wasn't anything much to apologize to Zhang Qian. However, if he were to choose to leave the academy, it would be a shame. Only with students can one be called a teacher. After leaving the academy and losing his students, how can he call himself a teacher? Furthermore, if he were to choose the latter, with a record of leaving Qian Academy and losing the teacher evaluation, it was unlikely that any other academy would accept him. Zhang Qian Laoshi. Stepping onto the center of the dueling ring, Lu Sun flung his sleeves and stood tall. Zhang Qian glanced over. I've lost the teacher evaluation. I admit you are capable of guiding your students, but in this world, strength nevertheless reigns supreme. No matter how good you are in teaching, without sufficient ability, you will be unable to stand your ground. I want to challenge you. Lu Sun clenched his fists tightly in determination. His glowing acupoints displayed his formidable cultivation as a Pishui realm expert. At the same time, his powerful voice gushed into the heavens. Do you dare to accept my challenge? After expending so much effort and making such thorough preparations, he nevertheless lost so tragically. His pride no longer allowed him to remain in Qian Academy. But before leaving, he wanted to teach Zhang Qian a lesson. He wanted him to understand that everything else is fake, only strength reigns supreme. You wish to challenge me? He didn't expect that the other party would make such a decision. Zhang Qian was about to continue speaking when Zhao Ye stepped forward and stood proudly in front of Zhang Qian, reminiscent of a goddess descending onto the mortal world. I will fight whoever who dares to insult my teacher. Who's with me? Me. 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 For consecutive sounds, and Zheng Yang, Wang Ying, Lu Yang, and Yuan Tao stepped forward with firm resolutions. You have insulted our teacher. The five of us will challenge you to uphold his honor. Lu Sun, do you dare to accept our challenge? The voices of the five roared as though thunder, resounding across the entire academy. Putting their lives on the line to uphold the honor of their teacher. This is the highest level of a teacher-student relationship, honor defend realm. Lu Ling's body trembled and he abruptly stood up. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.